يا لا لا يا لا لا لي 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 يا لا لا يا لا لا لي
I will fight you. That's what you wanted to hear, isn't it? You want me to fight you? Finish, Mr. Policeman. You want to get big and get some stars? Yes, sir, no, sir. I'll bow this to Allah, to Allah.
أمريكا دمرناها بالبيكا ونعربلت أمريكا دمرناها بالبيكا وكلا شنكر منها وكلا شنكر منها يا لا لا 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 نسقي بوش من دمه ينسى عمه أمه نسقي بوش من دمه ينسى عمه
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. And welcome to our seminar series discussing the principles, Nawabit al-Takfeer. Nawabit means the framework, in fact, not the principles, but the framework of al-Takfeer. And in these sessions we'll be studying a number of topics. First of all, we'll be studying what is Takfeer today, what are the consequences of refraining from Takfeer. And as you can see on the board, you don't have to write this all down, but I'll go through all of this today with you. We'll explain the different types of Takfeer, and then I'll go through about the consequences of refraining from Takfeer. Next week we'll study three topics, which will be, first of all, who from the Salaf actually make Takfeer, yeah? Secondly, who are the people who don't make Takfeer? So I can give you an example. For example, Munafiqeen, they don't make Takfeer. For example, Murjia, they don't make Takfeer. People who are cowards, they don't make Takfeer. People who are into interfaith or intercom or into this or into that, they don't make Takfeer. Who are the people who do make Takfeer? So I can give you an example just off the top of my head. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, radiyallahu anhu, he made Takfeer. He pronounced not specific Takfeer, I mean this will all be understood by the end of today. He never made specific Takfeer on every individual, but generic Takfeer he made upon those people who refused to pay the zakah, which was the first battle after Rasulullah passed away, which was what? The Ghazwat al-Ridda, yeah? Harb al-Ridda, battle of apostasy. Those people who were killed in that battle, and those people who were alive and they made tawbah and they said, we're going to pay the zakah now, he said, your tawbah will be subjective to you calling or referring to those people who we killed as murtadeen, as kafir. So there's many evidences, and we'll go through many examples of people from the Salaf who make Takfeer. Shaykh al-Islam, Ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn Kathir, many different examples. Then we need to study exactly what is Iman. Because obviously, I'll explain it with the whole introduction. I haven't even introduced anything yet, but we need to discuss what is Iman and how we're going to judge that Iman. Some people will say, our sayings Iman. Some people will say, our actions Iman. Is Iman just static within the heart? Does it increase? Does it decrease? And that is vital to us to understand the difference between three major groups of people today. I'm not talking about sects now, but three major groups of people today who all claim to be following Nahj Salaf Saleh. Because we have this fitna today where everybody says they're Salafi. Some people say they're Salafi and they say the ruler is kafir. Other people say we're Salafi, but we believe the ruler is mu'min. Other people, they make tawakkuf. Tawakkuf means they stop and they hold back and they say, Aki, who are we to judge? We leave this till Yawm al-Qiyamah, it's not for us to judge. So we need to study those people, and we'll mention particular personalities. Because I believe this type of matter needs to be established, especially for Muslims within the West. Because some people will tell you, for example, listen to Anwar Awlaki. Someone will tell you, don't listen to him. Someone will tell you, listen to Khalid Yasin. Someone will say, don't listen to any one of them. In fact, listen to Rabi ibn Hadi al-Madkhali. Someone will tell you to listen to Fawzan. Another one will tell you to go with the Deobandis, Brelvis. So this fitna needs to stop. We've got this dilemma where I don't believe there's a problem in us trying to understand which sect and which understanding of Islam we're going to follow. Who in their right mind is going to disagree that we don't need to follow the Sahaba understanding? Who in their right mind is going to disagree that we need to follow the rightly guided Salafus Salih, the Tabi'in and the Tabi'in and the understanding of the companions? That's not the fitna. The fitna is where we got the orthodox understanding of Islam supposedly being propagated via all of those channels, via people who are jihadi, whether it's people who claim to be Salafi but they're actually Madkhali, or whether it's people who are on Islam channel or Peace TV or any other channel. But they all understand an orthodox understanding of Islam in relation to Tawheed and in relation to Shirk. All of them, they'll tell you the same thing. Is it allowed to bow down to an idol? No. Is it allowed to go to the graves? No, it's not. But then on the vital issues, we get stuck. Is it allowed for us to vote? One says fard, other one says no, you become kafir if you do so. Another one, this has a whole implication on the ahkam, in relation to our life's affairs. In relation to, for example, is jihad fardul ain, for example, inside Afghanistan or not? Are the British and the Americans people of covenant within the Holy Land? And believe it or not, these are arguments which people are coming out with. Yesterday we done a roadshow, we were talking about Sharia for Arabia. We were talking about the present state in Egypt and how you can't have Fir'aun go and have another Fir'aun put in charge. So we make takfeer on all of the rulers, on all of the rulers yesterday. And some people, they say, for example, they say, how can you make takfeer, for example, on King Fahd? You never checked his heart. Other people, they say, and this is the most ridiculous one I ever heard in my life, I don't think anybody can disagree upon this, that Obama, he's at peace with the Muslim world, and therefore that's why he's got his embassies. And in fact, the Americans, they are paying jizya right now to King Fahd, or King Abdullah, and to the Muslim rulers. I never heard of that. Jizya is being paid by the kuffar to the Muslims right now. It must be some Islamic state. We need to make hijrah then. So you see, there's a whole implication, and I'll go through all of that. So we need to know what is iman. We need to know how do we judge somebody's iman. How do we judge people? Is it for me to judge, or do I say Allah is the only judge? Because funnily enough, we hear everybody, they say, Allah is the only judge, but the ruler, he's ruling by kufr. So I thought he said Allah is the only judge. So how come we are allowed to have man-made law above our head? Other people will say iman is just inside the heart. Other people will say we judge by the dahir. Are they correct? Who's wrong? Who's right? What is irja? We need to understand what is irja. That is the fitna amongst all three of those different types of groups, which I'll explain in a little while. Meaning some people, they'll say action, we separate action from iman, and a person, he can only become kafir by committing three types of kufr. Kufr ittiqadi, kufr amali, and kufr of the lisan, by the tongue. So nobody can become kafir until he tells you by his tongue what's inside his heart. Did Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam do so? Did Allah Azza wa Jal tell us to do so as well? So we need to study the evidences. We need to know what is irja. Where did the irja originate from? Who are the murji'ah? That's one sect. What is the stance of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah in comparison to the Khawarij and the Murji'ah? And we don't want to just study about the Khawarij and the Murji'ah, but we want to link it to our present time today. There's no Khawarij, just for your information, alive today. There's nobody walking around, I'm Khawarij, let's just go kill all the Muslims. But there are people who have particular signs of the Khawarij, but we don't want to refer to them as Khawarij. We refer to them as the Madkhalis. I'll tell you that from the onset, or Saudi Salafis, And they will say, for example, that these people in the middle, for example, those people inside Afghanistan, or those people who follow the line of thinking of Sheikh Osama bin Laden, Hafidullah, that he is somebody Khariji. He is fighting, he is spilling the blood of the Muslims. Where in fact, we see that's not the case. There's people like, even go and ask the FBI, it's not for my own information, people like Al-Qaeda, people like the Mujahideen, I'm not glorifying terrorism, but they are fighting occupiers. They're not fighting Muslims. They're not killing Muslims within there. The sign of the Khawarij is what? They kill the Muslims and leave who? The Mushrikeen. So we need to know, are these people correct in their understanding in labeling somebody as Khawarij? That needs to be understood. Then, obviously after that, we need to study, who are the Khawarij? Somebody might say to you, for example, Abu Dujannah, you're Khariji. You, Asad, you're Khariji. You're Khariji. You're Khariji. In fact, all of you are Khariji, and I'm the biggest Khariji as well. The huge implication by saying that you're from the Khawarij just because you make takfeer. You already know my Aqidah then. We need to study what is the roots of the Khawarij, what's their names, what's the sects of the Khawarij, what are the signs of the Khawarij, what are the opinions of the Khawarij in relation to takfeer, in relation to iman. So we need to study iman and kufr and takfeer in relation to Murji'ah, Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah and Khawarij in order to come to a clear understanding. Then we need to know what is kufr. What is kufr? What are the different types of kufr? What's kufr askar? What's kufr akbar? What's kufr duna kufr? Shirk akbar, shirk askar. All of those topics we need to study. How do we know when, for example, kufr akbar is kufr askar? For example, I can give you an example of what some people say is shirk akbar. Went from my mind, but it'll come to me later on. But I'll discuss that later on. Then the biggest topic which we need to study is the preventions of takfeer. Because we have a fitan nowadays, for example, and we discussed this the other day, in fact, where, for example, what's this guy's name? No, not the brother, no, the guy who everyone's calling kafir now. Tahir al-Qadri. Everybody say he's kafir, okay? Now we have a fitna now, where people start to say that the one who bows down to him, he is kafir. So we need to know now, is there any prevention of takfir for the one who bows down to an idol? That I'm going to discuss some of that with you, with regards to that. So we need to study the preventions of takfir. What's the evidence for the preventions? Where did this all come from? Yeah. So we need to discuss that. We need to discuss whether the preventions they apply every single time. Do the preventions of takfir apply every single time? For example, can we say there is al-udru bil-jahl, there is the excuse of ignorancy for a sheikh or a scholar? So for example, can I say to you now, brother, what's your kunya now? Abu Saif. See? Takfiri. Yeah? Can I say to Abu Saif now, and can he accept from me if I say to him, my sheikh, yeah, he said to you, he says to me, he gave me fatwa to say that there's two gods. What do you say about my sheikh? So we need to know about that as well. Can you say there's ikhtilaf upon that? Can you say we are going to agree to disagree? There's difference of opinion on that. So we need to know that. Is it possible to become a kafir unknowingly? Can it be possible that I can go outside the fold of Islam without any prevention of takfir? Then we need to apply all of this to our present reality in relation to the biggest fitna of our time. And this is in relation to whether we have Islamic State or no Islamic State. Whether we worked in dawah to establish Ishar-ud-Din, or whether we go and fight jihad fi sabilillah in relation to the present governments today. Have they disbelieved or not? Are all of the leaders murtadeen, or do some of them have excuse? Are some of them wahid? Maybe we got it all wrong. So we need to know that. We need to discuss that. We need to discuss whether they have any excuses. Is ruling by man-made law kufr akbar or kufr duna kufr? If we call them kafir, do we become from the Khawarij? We need to know that. If we don't call them kafir, then do we become from the Murjiya? And finally, and this is probably one of the most important ones, which will lead us on to our further studies, is what is the hukum for us to rise against them? Is it allowed? Is it not allowed? What's going to be the implication? You can understand from this is going to shape and formulate what we're going to do with our life. What is going to be our plan? Some people, they say, I need to make hijrah. Other people say, what hijrah? We got Islamic State right here. Amir al-Mu'mineen, Barack Obama, and Dawood Cameroon, yeah? David Cameron, yeah? So we need to understand that. So by way of introduction, I just want to give you one hadith being reported in At-Tabarani. And obviously all of you will be writing notes. My suggestion is try to write shorthand, try to just get the references, listen more, but there's certain things you will need to write. When it comes to hadith and ayat that I give you, you don't need to write them word for word. If you get the gist of it, most of the studies that you will do will not be here. It's when you go home and review it. So that's why I said bring notepad, not piece of paper. Because if you have piece of paper, that's just going to go in your back pocket and in the bin. I know that because I've done that myself. Yeah, but notepad, it will help you. So you go over, review it, because I will test you. Yeah, I will test you, and I will ask you questions in between, and I will stop halfway and I will point to any one of you just to see if you got it. Yeah, and you can stop as well, and you can ask me a question anytime. Just some adab of the majlis, which we need to lay down, and this is from the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There's no speaking over other people. There's no such thing as you speaking over me as the speaker or as a teacher. There's no such thing as you deciding, okay, Asad is going to stand here, he's going to give his own lecture now in the corner. He's not going to do that, yeah. There's no talking in between, except if you want to know about reference. If you want to ask each other reference, you can interrupt me anytime. And adab of the majlis is, you always ask permission for anything. So if you want to go to the toilet, you put your hand up and you ask. That's the adab of the majlis, and that's how the Sahaba they used to be with Rasulullah. I'm not Rasulullah, otherwise you call me kafir. Yeah? So that's, you learn the takfir, you can go home now. Yeah? But anyway, being reported in At-Tabarani, Abdullah ibn Abbas, he gave us a definition of what is deen. And this is vital for us to know. What is the deen? Is the deen just something that you believe inside your heart? Or is the deen just something that you practice willingly? No, the deen is everything. He said, ad-deen, it is what you believe in. At-tawheed, live by Sharia, and willing to die for dawah and jihad. We can call this the three pillars of the deen. The whole of Islam, it revolves around this. Tawheed, Sharia, and dawah and jihad. Or Ishar-ud-Din, you can call it. Dawah and jihad, you can call it Ishar-ud-Din, meaning implementation of the deen. Deen, what I believe in, at-tawheed, manifested on the actions, Sharia. Because problem people will say to you, why do you call for Sharia within the West? Yeah? Shouldn't we be calling it the tawheed? No, the tawheed is Sharia. And the dawah and jihad is part and parcel of the actions in relation to tawheed. Because remember, tawheed, when we talk about tawheed, it has two particular pillars. Those two pillars are al-kufr bit-tahut, al-nafi, to negate, and then to affirm. Negate what? negate all 4 matters you want to negate. And this has been mentioned by Sheikh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, Sheikh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, and by all of the fuqaha and scholars of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Whenever they talk about al-kufr bit-taghut, or to give up, is based around La ilaha illallah. These are the 2 pillars of Tawheed. If you don't understand that, you'll never understand anything of what we're studying. The Shahada, it consists of 2 pillars. La ilaha, there's nothing worthy of worship, following and obeying, and submitting to, except illallah. What the Talafis, or what some deviant or misguided people they will tell you, is 2 pillars of La ilaha illallah is La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah. No. When we believe in La ilaha illallah, it is talking about al-ifradullahi bil ibadah. If you want to know what is definition of Tawheed, if someone says to you now, Aki, what is Tawheed? The only thing that should come to your mind, or the first thing that should come to your mind, Tawheed, it is based upon the word al-ifrad. Al-ifrad, it means the exclusive worship of Allah Azza wa Jal. In everything. In His names, attributes, and functions. So in Rububiyyah, Uluhiyyah, al-asma sifat. That is in relation to our belief. Wahidullah, we believe in Allah one. Not unity of Allah. Because when you read those Western books of Tawheed, what did they explain Tawheed as? They say the unity of God. What, did God become separate or something? That doesn't make any sense. La ilaha illallah, what does it mean? There is no God worthy of worship. On the Barelvis, when you go inside the mosque, what do they say? They say there's no God but God. Does that make sense? Seriously, does that make sense? There's no God but God. Like I said, there's no table but table. And what? What am I going to do about it? Nothing. Then we're going to go home then and just have kebab. No, there is nothing worthy of worship, to be worshipped, followed and obeyed, except illallah. Yeah, except Allah Azza wa Jal. Now, those matters that you negate, we're talking about negation now, that you give up, are 4. The first is known as al-aliha. Al-aliha is anything that you direct your fear or your hope into. If you read Kitab al-Tawheed, what I'm discussing, every single chapter will fall into one of these 4. You want to give up 4, and you want to take up 4. These are 4 things which you need to give up in order, before you study Tawheed, Rububiyyah, Uluhiyyah, Al-Asma Sifat. So we're talking about the first pillar of Tawheed, Al-Kufr bit-Taghut. It is to make kufr on Taghut, to reject all false gods. The first of them is Al-Aliha, anything that you direct your fear and your hope into. So how do I do that now? Because what is opposite of Tawheed? Who can tell me what is the opposite of Tawheed? Shirk. Yeah? Shirk is what? Shirk comes from the root word sharik or sharaka. Like sharaka means like 2 people to come together and form like a party, like a business transaction, like a company together. So when you associate a partner with Allah, meaning you take any of the rububiyyah, uluhiyyah, al-asma sifat, you share with Him, or you direct it to somebody else, then you commit shirk akbar. So to do that with the directing your fear and your hope, meaning you fear somebody instead of Allah, that is something that could take you outside the fold of Islam. That has violated your iman billah. You never fulfilled al-kufr bit-taghut. If you did not have all your fear and your hope and your reliance in Allah Azza wa Jal. So al-aliha. The second one is known as al-andad. Al-andad is anything that causes you to disobey Allah Azza wa Jal. So give me an example now. I want to ask you the questions because I like to ask questions. Give me an example of somebody that asks you to disobey Allah and to obey Him. Taghut, give me an example. I want a physical example now, real life. We don't want to just Arabic words and a couple of terms. We want real life example. Who nowadays is asking you to obey him nowadays? Barack Obama. He become an al-andad. Anybody who asks you to disobey him. Disobey Allah. Why? How does he ask you to disobey Allah? Did he tell you, don't obey Allah? No, he asks you to obey him. So la ilaha illallah. Anything followed, obeyed and worshipped instead of Allah, that is a false God. That is a taghut. So, andad, anything which asks you to disobey Allah. Then we have something called al-arbab. The ayah said, like the Jews and the Christians, they took their rabbis and monks as arbab bin dunillah. Yeah? They took their rabbis and monks as gods besides Allah. So anything which tries to legislate law and order, al-arbab, or tries to make istihlal, haram halal, or tashri', they start to legislate law and order. Then the fourth matter which you want to give up, and this is the most important one. So you got the first one, al-aliha, anything which you direct your fear and your hope towards. Second one is al-andad. Al-andad is anything which asks you to disobey Allah. Thirdly, it is al-arbab. Al-arbab, anything which tries to make haram halal, or legislates law and order. Then the fourth one is the most important one, and this is mentioned in the book of Ma'ana al-Taghut, the meaning of Taghut, and inside Asul al-Thalatha, the three fundamental principles of Sheikh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab rahimahullah. It is known as at-Taghut. At-Taghut, that is what we're talking about. Al-Kufr bit-Taghut. La ilaha, I'm giving up at-Taghut. What is Taghut? Umar al-Faruq, he gave nice definition of what is Taghut. He said, At-Taghut huwa al-Shaytan. The Taghut, it is Shaitan. Yeah? Taghut is anything you follow, obey, and worship. The definition of that being given by people like Imam Malik. Imam Malik, he said the Taghut is anything followed, obeyed, and worshipped instead of Allah. So now, when I said anything followed, obeyed, and worshipped instead of Allah, let me give you examples of that. That could be, for example, jinn. If I obey a jinn, or if the jinn tells me to obey him, maybe some jinn comes inside the room. Yeah. Sorry. No, carry on. Yeah. Yeah, if a jinn comes in the room, for example, like David Cameron, and tells me to obey him, that becomes a Taghut. Taghut, it could be anything followed, obeyed, and worshipped instead of Allah. That could be man, could be rock, could be jinn, could be Paul Daniels. Have you heard of Paul Daniels? He's a magician. He's maybe before your guys' time anyway, yeah? David Blaine, that's a Taghut as well. Could be magician, could be rock, could be stone, could be idol, could be law and order. Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah, he gave a nice definition of what is Taghut. He said, At-Taghut, kullu ma'budin aw matbu'in aw muta'in min dunillah. Anything followed, obeyed, and worshipped instead of Allah. Those tawahid, they have particular heads. For example, the highest of them could be shaitan. I don't want to go too much detail into this, because this is discussing the whole pillars of Tawheed, and it's a whole topic in itself. And we will study that another time. I'm going to go for a whole separate seminar with you about Aqidah, and we will study 50 points in relation to our Aqidah, and probably 10 sessions we'll do on that, and 9 out of them will probably be just based upon Tawheed, about these 2 pillars. Yeah. So he said the highest of them is Shaitan. It could be the magician. It could be the one who judges, the one who rules by other than what Allah has revealed, the one who calls people to worship him. So for example, Fir'aun, he was a Taghut. Yeah? So, La ilaha, you understand, these are the false gods. Now what do I do with those false gods now? I understand Shaitan is Shaitan.
The Salafi, do they say anything which is followed or worshipped?
They will say anything worshipped, or maybe anything followed, but they don't emphasize on this issue of ta'ah, of obeying, of the shirk of ta'ah, of obedience. But what they do is, and we'll study this later on, is because they make separation of action from iman, they say, I can obey a false god by my action, but you don't know what's inside my heart. Or I never affirmed by my tongue what I really believed inside my heart. So for example, he obeys, Ahmed here, Abu Khadija. Abu Khadija here, he for example, he decides, I'm going to obey King Abdullah, King A'udhu Billah, yeah? King Abdullah. He's going to obey him. But then when we say to him, for example, you're not allowed to obey somebody, Taghut, he say, you can't call me kafir and you can't judge my action. Why? Because you never affirmed what is inside my heart. I need to tell you by my tongue what I believe inside my heart. So they say the kufr can occur by, I don't want to go into that because that's another topic on its own, by tongue, by action, and by belief inside the heart. And Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they believe exactly the same thing. The only difference between the Murji'ah, or the Murji'ah Fuqaha, meaning the Fuqaha, the scholars, or the root scholars of the Murji'ah, and between the Fuqaha of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, in relation to understanding, judging the kufr or the shirk of a person, is that we judge by saying and by action, we don't judge by the heart. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said explicitly within the hadith, I have not been sent to open up the hearts of the people and judge by the person's heart. Does not mean we don't believe in the preventions of takfeer. Does not mean I don't check with the person. For example, he might have false ta'wil. He could have false interpretation. He could be given false fatwa. You see? So someone, for example, like generally I say, to make it clear, I believe voting is not allowed. I believe completely is not allowed. And if you do it knowingly, willingly, that you're voting for a Taghut, that is shirk akbar, that can take you outside the fold of Islam. But somebody, for example, he might be ignorant of that. Yeah, I'll say this person is doing haram. I won't call him kafir. But we'll understand this when we study kufr, and kufr asghar and kufr akbar, and how these are correlating with one another. So I understand that. So how do I reject the Taghut? Now I need to give up the Taghut now. I need to first of all believe it is batil. So Shaitan, is he on the haqq or is he upon batil? You sure about that? Did you check his heart? Did you check with him? No. So you know that. Shaitan is upon the batil. Do you go out with the Shaitan nightclub? No. You keep distance from the Taghut. Okay? What about you keep distance from him? So do you have any animosity, or do you wink at him now and then, Shaitan? No. You have animosity towards a Shaitan. Okay? So these are the 5 conditions to reject the Taghut. Number 1, you believe he is batil. You keep distance from the Taghut. So no Shaitan is going to come inside my house. I will say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. I walk inside the house, I say, Assalamu alaikum, and inshallah all the jinn go away. Shayateen, whatever they are, I try to make them keep distance from me. I don't keep company of any shaitan. But that's just an example of Taghut. Remember, Taghut can be even Fir'aun now. So Fir'aun, I believe he's upon falsehood. belief is upon batil. I keep distance from the taghut. This is known as al-ijtinab. Al-ijtinab is to keep distance from the taghut, to keep distance from the taghut. And then third and fourthly, I have animosity and hatred. What does that mean, animosity and hatred? Meaning I could have some grudge against the person, but do I really hate his guts? I need to hate his guts. So first one, believe is on falsehood. Secondly, I keep distance from him. Thirdly, have animosity. Fourthly, I have hatred. And fifthly, I make kufr on taghut, meaning I believe he is kafir now. After all of that now, you're telling me now, shaitan is muwahid now. No, I believe shaitan, he is kafir. He's upon a falsehood. Yeah, but he has all of the knowledge. Indeed, he has all of the knowledge. He knows all about the 99 names of Allah, and more than probably all of us sitting here together. But still, he's a kafir. Otherwise, what are you going to call him? Muwahid? If he's muwahid, then you can't make takfeer upon him. So anything followed, obeyed, and worshipped instead of Allah, that is taghut, you give up. So once you give up now, I want to have imanu billah. Al-kufr bit-taghut wal-imanu billah. I give up all false gods. I give up all false aliha, as all false al-andad, arbab, at-tawahid. And then I want to affirm my belief in Allah. This is what Talafis, they don't teach. When they read Usul al-Thalatha, what do they jump to? They just say, you give up all false gods, for example, the man in the rock, not the man in the rock, just some stone, just some idol, just the ta'weez around your neck, blah, 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 and just jump to studying Tawheed al-Rububiyyah. The problem is not Tawheed al-Rububiyyah. What is Tawheed al-Rububiyyah? Tawheed al-Rububiyyah is to understand Allah's lordship. Meaning, who is Allah? Zatullah. When we talk about Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, we can talk about a number of matters. We could talk about, for example, Tawheed al-Zat. What is Tawheed al-Zat? Tawheed al-Zat is discussing the attributes of Allah. Who is Allah? For example, does Allah have speech? Does Allah have hand? You want to ask a question? Alright, sorry. Yeah. Does Allah have hand? Where is Allah? Does Allah sit on His throne? Is He above His throne? Is He underneath the heavens, above the heavens? What is Allah? What are the names and attributes? Al-Asma Sifat. So we want to discuss Tawheed al-Rububiyyah. Tawheed al-Rububiyyah we want to know about. We want to know about the lordship of Allah. This is all in relation to our knowledge of Allah. So when I say Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, your mind will go to your knowledge of Allah. Then Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah, or also known as Tawheed al-Ibadah, is in relation to our actions, in relation to the knowledge which we have already acquired of Allah Azza wa Jal. So what do we do now? Once we know this is our Rabb, what do? We worship Him. Where does the shirk occur in? In our knowledge of Allah or in the worship of Allah? In the worship of Allah. In the worship of Allah. How do we know this? If you were to ask the people, the ayah said, if you were to ask the people, who is your Rabb or what is the Rabb? They will say Allah. Rububiyyah is not the problem. It is Uluhiyyah is the problem. So then we have Tawheed al-Asma Sifat, Tawheed al-Hakamiyah, and those are classifications or divisions of Tawheed, which is a whole lengthy topic, and I will discuss that. When we study Aqidah, I will discuss with you, for example, how many pillars there are in Iman Billah. Is it just Rububiyyah and Uluhiyyah? Where did Asma Sifat come from? Can we have Tawheed al-Hakamiyah? All of these matters we need to discuss so we're all on the same wavelength. Okay? So we need to understand that is a Tawheed. And obviously, we can never discuss Tawheed, or we can never discuss Takfeer and say we're discussing the A to Z of it. No, we don't discuss A to Z of anything. Alif to Zal. Yeah? And anything in between that would be the Meme, or the Noon, or the Ha. So there's nothing called A to Z, but we will discuss as much as we can. And tomorrow we might discover something new. We will discover more information. That's why one of the signs of good scholar is that he changes his opinion. Imam Abu Hanifa, he said, dare you to follow me. Tomorrow I might change my opinion. If you find something which contradicts the text, follow whatever I understand or whatever I concluded by my understanding of the ayat and hadith, throw it against the wall. If you find something which contradicts what I say, my understanding. Yeah? So the good alim, the good scholar is the one who studies and assesses and has, pending files, like I like to say. Pending files, meaning he's checking hadith all the time. It could be for 3 years, he could be telling you this hadith is sahih. Yeah? And tomorrow he discovers his da'if. It's obliged upon him to tell you. The one who doesn't want to tell you and wants to hide the knowledge from you, this one like a shaitan now. Why? Because he's worried about his reputation amongst the people. These people are not going to consider me trustworthy. So don't be afraid of a scholar who changes his opinion. If you find a sheikh tomorrow, a good alim that you trust for your deen, and you find he's always changing his opinion, don't get offended by it. In fact, that is something praiseworthy. Don't let people try to say to you, your sheikh, he's always changing his opinion. That's good. That's good. But if he changes his Aqidah, then that's something disaster. He always becomes from Ahl Sunnah to Shia. Shia, he becomes Khariji, becomes Talafi, or whatever it is, becomes Deobandi, Barelvi, Sufi. After that, what more is there left? Tomorrow someone can become Kafir, in fact. So the knowledge, my dear brothers, is very little that we know, and very little that we have. And that's why we have nice saying of Ali ibn Abu Talib, that whatever knowledge that we know, he said, whenever I acquired knowledge, I discovered that whatever knowledge I acquired, it was like a drop in the ocean, compared to the knowledge I don't have. if you think about it. Every time you read a book or something, you think, subhanAllah, I never knew that. I never knew about how to pray. I never knew about Tawheed. I never knew about this. It's always something new that you will discover. So, we will begin our course now. That was just all by way of introduction now. Now you got the introduction, and we're just warming up now. The ayah said, just to begin with, in Surah Al-Ibrahim, verse number 35, the ayah said, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وإذ قال إبراهيم ربي أجل هذا البلد آمنا وأجنبي وبني أن نعبد الأصنام. The ayah spoke about Ibrahim alayhi salam, speaking about ridda and apostasy. The ayah said, "O Allah, make this city aminan, make the city peaceful," talking about Mecca, "and save me and my children from worshipping the idols." What do we understand from this? Here is a Nabi called Ibrahim alayhi salam. What is the title of Ibrahim alayhi salam? Anybody know? The friend of Allah, Khalilullah. Nice to have title like that. Who from amongst us been given title like that? Nobody. In fact, our Nabi has got even nicer title, Habibullah. That's nice. If you have a son, you can call him Habib. Yeah, the Habib, the one who is beloved to Allah. But Ibrahim alayhi salam, he's been given title as the friend of Allah. Yet, this is Nabi Hanifan. When people, they discussed in the Quran, when the Jews and the Christians, be mentioned in the Quran, they discuss, what is he? Is he Jew? Is he Christian? What is Ibrahim alayhi salam? No, he is Hanifan. Nabi of Hanifan, meaning Nabi of Tawheed. He said, "Oh Allah, make this city aminan, make this city peaceful." Yet he raised his hands and he said, "Protect me and my son from committing the shirk." Meaning there is something which could negate your iman, something which could take you outside the fold of Islam. Ibn Taymiyyah, on commentary of this verse, he said, who can consider himself safe after this ayah? After this ayah, which one of you thinks he's safe from not going outside the fold of Islam? If Ibrahim alayhi salam, he's worried, I'm going to become kafir, then who are we? If the Nabi can't guarantee himself the Jannah, and he can't guarantee himself safe from the shirk, then who can guarantee himself safe from the ridda? And Abu Hurairah, he also described, and this is reported on the authority of Abu Hurairah in Sahih Muslim, Kitabul Iman, in the book of Iman, chapter 51, hadith number 118. I'll repeat that, Sahih Muslim, book of Iman, chapter 51, hadith number 118. Abu Hurairah, he reported from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, increase in the good deeds. Start to do the good deeds, because fitan after fitan, it will reach you. Meaning test, trial, tribulation, it will reach you. And the trial and the tribulation, it reaches us. For some people it could be small, for some people it could be big. For some people it could be small test. His house, it blew up. His gas, it went off. He lost his wife ran away with the dog, or his husband ran off with another man. Could be like that. That type of fitan after fitan. And for some people the test could be bigger, where the dunya all come to him, come all in front of his eyes, and it reached his nose. What did he do? When people they asked him to commit the shirk, he took the dunya instead of the deen of Allah Azza wa Jal. Rasulullah said, start to do the good deeds, because fitan after fitan it will reach you. And a time will come when a man, he will wake up in the morning a believer, as a mu'min, and he will go to sleep as a disbeliever. And he may go to sleep as a believer and wake up as a disbeliever, and he will sell his deen by any temptation of the dunya. So what we're discussing here, we're discussing that we're giving you evidence now to say and show you that there is a possibility that you can go outside the fold of Islam. Because yesterday I was discussing with somebody, he says, nobody can become a kafir. No one can become a kafir. No one can become a Muslim then either then. Why not? How do you become a Muslim? You say the shahada. So who told you just by saying the shahada, you've been protected? Although the hadith, it told us, anybody who dies upon la ilaha illallah, dakhulul jannah. He been given the jannah, who dies upon it. But the way you come inside the fold of Islam, by believing in your heart, by testifying by your tongue, and acting upon with the limbs. Likewise, my dear brothers, by those same pillars, you could go outside the fold of Islam. Yeah? You can go outside the fold of Islam. So that temptation of the dunya can come to any one of us. And for example, Yusuf alayhi salam, the temptation come to him. What was the temptation? Not even temptation, but the offer of the dunya come to Yusuf alayhi salam. What was the offer that came to Yusuf alayhi salam? It was who can tell me? What was the fitna that Yusuf alayhi salam he faced inside the kingdom of the Pharaoh of his time, of the king of his time? The woman. The woman. Who can refuse that? You know, it's easy for you to refuse woman outside. You know, she come up to you and she says, "When we go in the back alley, you know what I mean? You know, I'll drop my knickers or whatever, and we'll just do the hanky-panky, yeah? So I have to be crude a little bit for the youth and that, innit? For the shabab, yeah? Yeah, murking it. Yeah? Someone can refuse woman outside, but who can refuse woman in private? Because when there's two in company, with two, the man and the female, non-mahram to each other, who's the third which is the company? Not the MI5, the shaitan. Forget the MI5 now. Shaitan going to be whispering. And we're not talking about some ugly woman. If I ask you now, for example, brother Abu Bakr now, there's a woman now, she wants to marry you, yeah? She's 102 years old, she's got one broken tooth, one eye and one foot. What's he going to say? A'udhu billah, take her, stuff her, you know what I mean? You can have her for yourself, yeah? But if I say now to Abu Bakr now, nice sister, she wants to get married to you, for example, yeah? And she's 17 years old, and she looks like the Hur al-Ain, for example, yeah? Huri. And even her name is Huri as well. He telling me he's going to say, no, he's going to say, yeah? What time? 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock? Let's do the nikah at 2 o'clock. I've got a flat ready, don't worry, I'll go and get one. I'll kick him out of his house and I'll move into his place. You know what I mean? I'll go and get married. Yeah? That type of temptation, it come to Yusuf alayhi salam. Because remember, usually it's the man that chases the woman, not the woman who chases the man. Isn't it? You don't know, I don't think it happens with most of us, except maybe him because he's got the sexy beard, yeah? Yeah. But I don't think it happens with us where you're just walking down the street and women are just falling at your feet and they're saying, Abu Dujanna, come on now, you know, Abu Saif, come on now, I love your hat, come on, I'll marry you. Like, there's a queue of sisters, there's all. Inshallah, maybe you get 4 wives, inshallah, yeah? But usually it's the man. But here you're being put in Yusuf al-Islam's been put in a situation where the woman is coming to his feet. And not only that, even they said Yusuf alayhi salam was so beautiful that when the women, they were cutting the apples, they ended up cutting their hands. How many people do that today? Which brother can tell me that his wife cut her hand when she looked at him? She's trying to cut him maybe, yeah? Why, where's the food? You know what I mean? Where's the chicken legs? You know what I mean? You come home late from that halakah. You told me he's going to finish at 6. 8, come here, bam, bam, bam. You know, we become like Kill Bill or something like that, yeah? You know, some sword swiping all over the place, yeah? I don't know about that. I've just seen the poster, by the way, yeah? But someone, he can sell his deen by any temptation of the dunya. It could happen, for example, by joke. Just by joking, somebody can sell his deen or do something which is disliked, or kufr dun kufr, or shirk asgar or shirk akbar. For example, instead of saying alhamdulillah, someone can say, you know, brother Abu Saif, I don't know what I would do without you. Just without you, I don't know what I would do. That could be something shirk. You see, instead to say alhamdulillah for the ni'mah of Islam, I can say alhamdulillah for George Bush. A'udhu billah. That's complete kufr and complete shirk. For example, another example, someone can just do this by mistake or without even realize. Someone can say, I am the richest, when one of Allah's names is Allah al-Ghani. Yeah, He's the richest. And this is a form of hidden type of shirk. And just to give you another hadith, in fact, informing us now we talk about certain ayah, we spoke about Yusuf alayhi salam, we spoke about the hadith, about the temptation of the dunya. Let us go more to our present reality now. Because one of the blessings of Islam is we have been given a window into the ghaib. Yeah? Window into the ghaib, into the unseen via the text. Look to the hadith of Rasulullah, and this is reported in Sahih Bukhari on the authority of Abu Sa'id al-Hidri and Ali ibn Abu Talib. Hadith number 6352 in Sahih Bukhari, volume 6, and that is page 2540. So people who say, where's your dalil? I'll give you the dalil, I'll repeat. Sahih Bukhari on the authority of Abu Sa'id al-Hidri and Ali ibn Abu Talib, hadith number 6352. That is volume 6 of Sahih Bukhari, page number 2540. Which, pointless me giving you that, because I doubt anyone who you don't trust me and you're going to go home and say, yeah, I'm going to go and check it as well, yeah? But some people, they want to check it, no problem. But remember, there's something I need to mention here. When we give evidence, there's a reason why we give evidence. First of all, you need the evidence. You can't follow the text without the evidence. But when we talk about reference, is a purpose of taking the reference in order to verify. When we study Usul al-Fiqh, when we study the foundations of jurisprudence, of ilm al-riwayah, ilm al-hadith, when we study the sciences of hadith, there's a purpose of that to go and verify the text. Not a matter of just like, I don't believe you, I don't trust you. This fitna of checking, not fitna, but this issue about checking references and evidences only came about after which sect came? The Mu'tazila. The Salaf Salih, they said, only after the fitna of the Mu'tazila and the Ash'ira and many sects they come, after that we started to ask, who is your Rawi? So for example, you say to me, for example, we need to wipe over the socks, yeah? And we're living in the year 450 Hijri. I will say to you, or some scholar would say to you, where's your evidence? I mean, not where your evidence is in terms of like, what is the ayah, what is the hadith, meaning I want to know the full narration. That's why you see, the knowledge of the Salaf Salih, much greater than ours. Nowadays, we know about 10 hadith, 100 hadith, 1,000 hadith maybe, and just the text we know, just the hadith. But we're talking about people like Imam Bukhari, or we're talking about Sufyan al-Thawri, or Ahmed bin Hanbal. We're talking about people who knew 100,000 hadith with a full chain of narration as well. We don't know that. We don't even know the full 114 chapters of the Quran. Just the names. Just the names of the chapters of the Quran. We don't even know that. So you can see how far we are from the knowledge. You see? So at this point, I just want to mention this just as a side point, that when we study, when I give you reference, it's purely for you to go back, maybe check, and just for you to have some sukoon within your heart. But don't take it in the sense where if I don't give you a reference for something, then therefore it's da'if or whatever. Yeah? Because we've been informed in the Quran, فَاسْأَلُوا عَلَى ذِكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. If you don't know, ask those who have knowledge. I'm not alim, so don't put that to me, yeah? But ask those who have knowledge, meaning someone who checked, someone who understands this. That's why we have people who are muhaddith. Not obliged upon you to learn all the sciences of usul al-fiqh and you to become a scholar. Not everyone is going to become a scholar. That's why we got scholars. A scholar who can understand the text, who can study usul al-fiqh, ulum al-Quran, ilm al-riwayah, the science of narrators, find out who's weak, who's trustworthy, who's a liar, who's da'if, so on and so forth. Know about all the classifications of hadith. Study all of the principles of usul al-fiqh, which is something like 262 sciences just of hadith. Islam is big. Islam is big. Don't think that I can just study for 10 years. People say, I study Sharia 4 years. I become sheikh. I go on, like foolish people now they say, I'm going to go to so-and-so university, without to mention their names, in this country, Islamic university, and I'm going to get a degree on marriage in a weekend. Weekend course, I get a BA degree. PhD on wudu and tahara in one day. What are you talking about? The PhD doesn't make a difference. In Islam, we don't look for titles. Do you know about the degree that Imam Ahmed had? No. What about Imam Malik? What university did he study at? You don't even care about it. What about Ibn Taymiyyah? Where does he get his ijazah from? You don't know. But how do you know about Ibn Taymiyyah? Because he's Shaykh al-Islam. Not just Imam of Tawheed, not just Imam of Dawah, but Imam of Jihad as well. How you know about Imam Ahmed? How you know about Imam Abu Hanifa? Where did Umar al-Faruq get his tazkiyah from? Which university? Who gave him that? What if I give you tazkiyah now, for example, and you go and teach now 10 students, and one of them becomes corrupt? Tazkiyah line gone completely out the window. So there is a form of tazkiyah, meaning I give you ijazah, maybe to teach, meaning I just, not authorization, but meaning I believe that you study this topic with me and you understand the topic enough to go and teach other people. Yeah, meaning you got the culture enough in this particular topic. I can say, Brother Asad, it's enough for you to teach Abu Bakr and Abu Dujana about this particular topic. But not some divine decree now, degree now, yeah? That's it, you become Shaykh al-Islam now, you study from Medina University. This is complete bakwas. In the first place, and then make it clear to you, I wouldn't trust anybody from Medina University in the first place. You know why? Because I don't trust the king. How can I trust king and his, king who I don't trust the king in the first place? How would I trust his university? Let alone to trust somebody who's graduated from George Washington University. You're telling me you're going to study Aqidah from somebody who studied from Barack Obama University, West Middlesex? No, you wouldn't. You'd never study from someone like that. So why you want to treat the deen like that anyway? So anyway, we mentioned after all of that, we got to the hadith now, innit? Let's get to the hadith, right? Rasulullah said, there will come out of this ummah those to whom you will look down to in comparison to their own prayers. Meaning you will look to people, there will come a portion of people, when you look to their salah and your salah, you'll think their salah is better than yours. And when you look to their recitation of the Quran, it will be better than yours. And when you compare your deeds to their deeds, they will say, your deeds will be very little compared to their deeds. And they will say the best of the sayings of the people of the earth, and they will recite the Quran very softly and kindly, but it will never reach their throats. It will never reach their throats. And they think it will be a reward for them. I don't expect you to write this all down, but the gist of it you need to get. But it will testify against them. SubhanAllah. Talking about people who have knowledge, who have ilm, they have tajweed, they have Quran, they have sunnah, they have hadith. They give you all of the sayings of the Salaf Salih. But what did Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam say? That the deen or the Quran, it will never reach beyond their throats. That's why, another narration of Rasulullah said, most of the munafiqeen from my ummah, those Quran, those reciters, those hafiz of Quran. You know why? Because the Quran, it can either be a testification for you, or it could be against you on Yawm al-Qiyamah. So dangerous for us. You see? And that's why we can give many examples of people like that nowadays. And Rasulullah said, and they will come out of the deen the way that the arrows, they come out from the bow, and they will never return to the deen. And they are the most evil of creations and the most hated creation of Allah. Allah protect us from this. Wallahi, Allah protect us from this. We're talking about hafiz of Quran. Somebody has nice recitation. He does the best deeds to the point that everybody is jealous of him. When you look to his recitation, he's got the best recitation. When he gives you quotations, he tells you about Imam Abu Hanifa, Abu Bakr, Umar. Yet Rasulullah said, this man will leave the deen like the arrow leaves the bow. How fast is that? Like the speed of light, which is, I don't even know what it is. I'm not into science. I didn't plan to become a scientist, so that's why deliberately I failed my GCSE exam in science. I'm not going to become a scientist, so what am I going to study for it? My mind is limited, I can't concentrate on so many things. You need 5 GCSEs to pass. Is that still the same now? Yeah, so I just concentrated on 5 topics. IT, business studies, maths. I didn't want to work in a bank, failed that as well. Afterwards I found out you need that to get an A level. You need to go, so I had to fake that one anyway, yeah, get the fake certificate to say I've done the maths anyway. You can't do me for that now anyway, because I'm a little bit older, yeah. But the Rasulullah said that they will come out of the deen the way the arrow, it leaves the bow, and they'll be the most evil creation and the most hated creation. Meaning those people, they thought they were Muslims, but in fact they were kafir without to know. And that is what we call asbabu ridda. So when we talk about at-takfeer now, in relation to at-takfeer, first of all you need to understand takfeer, it was never mentioned during the time of the Salafus Salih. Takfeer never been mentioned. But what has been discussed is asbabu ridda. That is known as the matters concerning apostasy. And there's books in relation to that. Nawaqid al-Islam by Sheikh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. Kitab al-Umm by Imam Shafi. Not Abu Shafi. Kitab al-Umm by Imam Shafi. And in Kitab al-Umm there's a chapter called Babu Ridda. Babu Ridda is the chapter of apostasy. And in there he lists maybe 200, 260 things which take somebody outside the fold of Islam. So although they never discussed takfeer, in the sense where they mention the word takfeer, they discuss something called asbabu ridda. And this ridda which we're talking about here, in relation to this hadith, which we mentioned in Sahih Bukhari, meaning no matter what precaution you take, it is a possibility that you could go outside the fold of Islam. Because these people that we're talking about is people who recite the Quran, they do the best deeds, they do everything, yet they left the fold of Islam. So no matter what precaution you take, no matter how much you study, there's still a possibility you can go outside the fold of Islam. Why? Because in another narration of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that the heart of the believer is in the hands of Allah. He could sleep as a Muslim and wake up as a kafir. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who is the best man, who is the best Nabi, he used to raise his hands to Allah. And you know the dua is 2 types. The dua can be after the salah where you look down in your palms and you make dua to Allah. Or the dua could be really big, high dua like dua qanut. Yeah, the powerful dua in month of Ramadan, or dua after the witr or during the witr, where you raise your hands up and you make dua to Allah, meaning, Ya Allah, punish, so and so. Or the dua of the dua of the oppressed, so powerful. But still, Rasulullah used to raise his hands and used to make dua. He said, "Oh Allah, the one whose in whose hands is my heart, make my heart firm upon this deen." That's what Rasulullah speaking. Who are you and me after that? Think about it. We're not even being guaranteed the Jannah. The companions they have. You and me, we haven't been guaranteed the Jannah. And Rasulullah used to make that dua. So, why we need to mention all of this? Because at-takfeer, this topic is the most deadly after Tawheed. And the framework of apostasy we need to apply in relation to the akam related to someone's ridda. Meaning the framework, nawabit al-takfir, the framework of takfir, meaning the principles of at-takfir, we need to apply in relation to akam, in relation to rulings related to somebody's apostasy. And that is called al-takfir. If we want to know nice definition of takfir, and I will ask you this question next week, so you better have the answer for me, yeah? Otherwise 20 press-ups, and no cake for you as well. Takfir is to identify someone as a kafir and call him a kafir. Al-takfir, definition of it is to identify somebody as a kafir and call that person a kafir. But hardly anybody, they speak about that nowadays. And I've got, just off the top of my head, I wrote this down, 9 excuses which people they make. People, they will say to you, you can't call the kafir a kafir. Yeah? Or don't talk about this topic, takfir. This topic is dangerous. Yeah? What do they say? Some of those excuses, and you can write this down, and you'll know about them, all of them. Number 1, they will say, for example, Ya Aki, fi Allah. I actually wrote this down, Ya Aki. Ya Aki, fi Allah. Second thing, they will say, Aki, this is for the ulama. Yeah? And we can't make takfir, it's for the ulama. Thirdly, Aki, Allah didn't order us to make takfir. I'm going to refute all of these, by the way, in a minute. Number 4, Aki, where is your evidence to make takfir? Yeah, nice poetry as well. Aki, where is your evidence to make takfir? Fifthly, you're Hariji. That one doesn't rhyme. Yeah, but it's got a nice hard one to it. Hariji, you're a dog. Yeah. Number 6, Aki, how can you call the king a kafir? Did you check his heart? 7, okay, this one is, people say, astaghfirullah, he said a bad word, like F word. Takfir, astaghfirullah, like become like a bad word. Auzubillah, how like he insulted his mother or something, yeah? How dare you say that word? Yeah, you can say such a bad word like that, yeah? Number 8, Aki, you make bid'ah, mubtadi. Yeah, you become mubtadi, you become man of bid'ah, yeah? They say, so this person he done bid'ah. Number 9, are you alim? Who's your sheikh? Yeah, and his list is endless, and you could talk about them all day long. So when we talk about at-takfir, we are talking about ibadah. This is ibadah, form of ibadah. And you think, what the hell? How can you say takfir is ibadah? Because it is to purify the camp of iman as a matter of worship to Allah Azza wa Jal. Because al-takfir, it is to protect the right of Allah, and that is a part and parcel of the deen. Why do we say that? Why do we say al-takfir is to protect the right of Allah and is a part of the deen in relation to the akam of the deen? Because everybody in the two camps, they have a different treatment. Muslim and kafir, they have two separate treatments. There's one famous sheikh, I can't remember his name, but I don't want to say his name. He's somewhere maybe in the middle of the mountains right now. He said the whole ard is divided into two camps, and you are either with us or you're with America. And there's another shaitan as well, who's not in power now. This is reported on the authority of CNN, that George Bush, he said, yeah, you are either with us or you are with the terrorists. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said the same thing. The whole ard is divided into fistatain, into two camps. Camp of Iman and the camp of Kufr. So Osama bin Laden, he was not the first person to say so. And George Bush, George W.C., Toilet Bush, he was not the first person to say so either. The whole ard, anybody can understand from the time of Adam alayhi salam until Yawm al-Qiyamah, the whole of the ard will be in two camps. Camp of Iman, camp of Kufr. Camp of Tawheed, camp of Shirk. Anybody in between, he is somebody munafiq. One foot in, one foot out there. So they have different treatment. And the evidence for that can be found in Surah Al-Ma'idah, Surah 5, verse number 54. Allah Azza wa Jal, He said, there will be among you people who are apostates from the deen. Okay, so we have two camps now. I don't have two cups here, but I will get two cups. Because I always like this, use the cups, and the sheikh used to use the cups. Here we go. I like, this is very good. And don't make takfir on me because of this, yeah? But, this glass is haram for us to use, by the way, yeah? Because anything which is imitating the kuffar is prohibited for us to use. So for example, even some people say, for example, to wear the tie is not good. Imitation of the kuffar. So anything in relation to the deen of the kuffar or their culture, we don't use. So you can't say, for example, in your big glass now, yeah? Go and make a cup of coffee. But we have two camps. This one's got sugar in it. SubhanAllah. Better not have this one in it. Yeah? But we got the camp of Iman. Inside here, I'm looking. Who's inside the camp of Iman now? Oh, look at that. There's a Sahaba inside there. There's Osama bin Laden inside there. There's a Mujahideen inside there. A little bit there. There's Muwahideen. There's Abu Waleed is in there. Anjam Chowdhury. Abu Zadeen. Asad is inside there. Abu Saif. Abu Bakr. Abu Dujanna. There's a lot of people in there. Oh, mashallah, very good. Inside here, I'm looking inside this cup now. Oh, look at that. Abu Lahab. Abu Jahl is inside there. Fir'aun, George Bush. Look at that. He's burning right at the bottom. Woo. Maybe you can bust it up. We've got the two camps. Camp of Iman and camp of Kufr. Hold on a minute now. Just shake the sugar a little bit. Majid Nawaz, what are you doing inside here? You're kafir. You're not supposed to be inside there. Yeah? Who is in there? That Tahir Qadri is inside there as well. Iqbal Sakrani, this one, he's kafir. Now I need to take, he made ridda from the deen. Because the ayah said, there will be people among you apostates from the deen. So what do I do with the apostate from the deen? I take him, I dangle him outside. He's going, I want to come back inside there. Iman inside the heart. No, I judge by the apparent. I didn't check inside your heart because you're too small. You're a midget. Let me take you inside out there and I drop you inside the Iman of kufr. Whoosh, big fire, all of the kufr, all of the shirk. So whole ard is be divided into two camps. Camp of Iman, camp of Kufr. Put that to the side, otherwise you make takfir upon me, yeah? So, Sheikh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, he said in a letter, and he wrote, whoever offers a ritual act to anyone other than Allah, this person is a kafir. Sheikh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. Anybody who offers a ritual act, so he done a ritual act. This person, because what's ritual act? Not just a ritual act. Ritual act is talking about salah, siyam, but ibadah is bigger than that. What is ibadah? Ibadah is worship of Allah. That could be anything which Allah He legislated in the Quran. So it could be tahakum. It could be to seek arbitration. Ruling and judging, that is also ibadah, worship. To kiss your wife is ibadah. That's right, it is. Go home and do that, okay? If you're not married, make dua, okay? So that is all ibadah. To slaughter the sheep is ibadah. To offer that to anybody else, you make shirk in Allah. Sheikh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, he said, whoever offers a ritual act to anyone is a kafir, and whoever claims he can't be called a kafir, he will be saying that Abu Jahl can't be called a kafir. Because exactly the same thing. And you will understand that in a minute. So we said the takfir is to identify and call the kafir a kafir, but the Sahaba or the Salaf, they never used this word. They used mujibatu ridda or asbabul ridda. Yeah. And that has a framework known as Nawabit al-Takfir, and that has prerequisite conditions which we're going to study. So there's certain definitions which you need to be aware of, and we're going to discuss all of those definitions today. And this is the very first foundations that you need to be aware of. For example, certain definitions you need to be aware of is shirk, kufr, the shirk or al-masail, al-jali, al-dahira, meaning those apparent actions, which we'll discuss in a minute, which take you outside the fold of Islam. Al-masail al-khafi, those clear and hidden matters, which we also need to study about. We also need to be aware of a term called ithbatul hujjah. You can write that down. Ithbatul hujjah. Ithbatul hujjah is to verify whether a person did or said an action. Yeah? Just if he said it or done it. That verification meaning, I just saw it on the TV. That could be enough. Yeah? Meaning clear. He just done the action. Then you have something called qiyamul hujjah. Qiyamul hujjah is to explain the person that what he done is wrong. This is just by way of example of some of the matters which we're going to discuss in relation to at-takfir. Now the question I want to raise, and we need to answer this, and this is all part of our first session. Ithbatul hujjah, to verify. Second one, qiyamul hujjah. Qiyamul hujjah is to explain the person's situation. Now the question that we got here in this session, which we're discussing, is what is takfir and what are the consequences of refraining from takfir? Now, I need to ask the question, or we're going to ask the question now. Can we make takfir? And when I say can we make takfir, I don't mean every individual here now who'd never studied takfir in the first place. Yeah? But is it allowed for a Muslim to make takfir? Is it fard? Is it wajib? What is it? Someone can say, for example, yeah, it is permissible to make takfir. Incorrect. Because that is what? Mubah. Mubah means permissible, meaning like food. If you eat it or you don't eat it, there's going to be no sin upon your neck. Rather, when we talk about the taklif or the taklifi rules, there are 5 which you need to be aware of, and we need to discuss that. But before we discuss that, we need to understand that the takfir is something fard, and it is a matter of hukum shari. Hukum shari may be something which you never heard of. What is it, hukum shari? I'm going to give you a good definition of hukum shari. Hukum shari is the address of the legislator, who is Allah, to the responsible person in terms of request, choice, or by circumstance. So takfir, it is something fard, and it is a matter of hukum shari. Yeah? Hukum shari, it is the address of the legislator to the responsible person in terms of request, choice, or by circumstance. What do we mean by that in English? Yeah, because that's Queen's English for you, yeah? And I hate Queen's English. That basically means in English, the request or the order, the command of Allah Azza wa Jal, yeah, to you, who is the responsible person, to the person who bears the responsibility of taklif, the mukallif, yeah, to do the action. So let me give you an example of that. The order of Allah to pray salah is obliged upon who? Dog or man? Man, not Barack Obama, he's the dog. Okay? You are the mukallif. What's the taklif? The responsibility of what? Of the command of Allah by way of circumstance. That you pray Asr in this specified time, or Maghrib in this specified time. So who's that command of? Allah. So when we say hukum shari, it is order by the legislator to you, the responsible person. You need to understand that. Yeah? That, we can go further and discuss al-ahkam al-sharia al-taklifiyya. Al-ahkam al-sharia al-taklifiyya. This is known as, and I'll write this down for you on the board. I'll write this up here. The board is short. Otherwise, you're going to read your notes and they're never going to make any sense to you. Oh, dear. I'm sorry for this, very, very small. Al-Akam Al-Sharia sounds like someone's being killed outside. This is why you need the Sharia.
That's all one word.
Al-Akam Al-Sharia Al-Taklifiyya. Yeah? That basically means the divine rules related to the actions of a responsible person. Meaning divine rules. What are the divine rules? We need to know what the divine rules are now. The divine rules, they are wajib, mandub, makruh, haram, mubah. I'll repeat them. Wajib, mandub, makruh, haram, mubah. I want someone to repeat it back to me, so we're all on the same page. What is it? Oh, sorry, yeah, okay. What are the 5? These are known as the 5 taklifi rules. Meaning every action that we do, it will fall into one of these things. Yeah? What are they? Repeat them to me. Abu Saif, what are those 5 rules?
I only got the first one, wajib.
What? You really got the first one? Mandub? Good. If you never got them, just ask. Don't worry, I'll repeat it. Mandub, makruh, haram, mubah. Wajib, mandub, makruh, haram, mubah. Okay. Now, I will explain them backwards to you. Mubah means permissible. Mubah means something permissible. So now, I will ask a question now to somebody who's not writing, and everybody's writing. So I'll ask Abu Waleed the question. Abu Waleed. Yeah. Orange juice. Haram, halal, mandub, wajib, mubah. Mubah. Permissible. How you know that? There's no ayah in the Quran which tells you orange juice is haram. Okay. Haram. Give me an example of haram. What's haram? Something which is not allowed. Mentioned specifically by text. For example, you can give me an example of that would be? Alcohol, gambling, Barack Obama. Okay. Okay. And something makruh. Something disliked. We can think of something disliked. I can give you one example of something which is disliked. To close your eyes when you're praying salah. That's something makruh. I don't know. Yeah.
Sleeping on your belly is
makruh. Good one. Good. We're following. We're on our boat and we're going now somewhere, yeah? Makruh. Something mandub. Something recommended. Then we have something called wajib. Wajib, and this is the one we want to concentrate on. Wajib is the decisive request by the legislator to the responsible person to do something. Meaning something Allah He ordered you to do. Yeah, and it could be via the order of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So fard and wajib both go hand in hand. These are the 5 taklifi rules. But when we talk about at-takfeer now, we want to know now, where does takfeer come into play? What is the hukum in relation to takfeer? Is it something mubah, haram, makruh, mandub, wajib? It is something fard. Why? Because of the 2 pillars. At-takhalli qabla at-takhalli. You give up, then you take up. What were the 2 pillars of Tawheed now? Tell me in English. You sure about that? Is he correct? Are you sure he's correct? Okay. Repeat.
Reject Taghut and believe in Allah.
These are the 2 pillars of Tawheed. We studied this, alright? We've got this, alright? So, in relation to that, what did we say? When we reject Taghut, we say to reject the Taghut is you must make takfeer on the Taghut. So therefore we say it's fard. More than that, we said, Allah Azza wa Jalla said in the Quran, Qul ya ayyuhal kafirun. Allah said, say, O kafirs. What are you doing? You're calling, what did we say takfeer was? Definition. To identify somebody, someone as a kafir and to call him a kafir. So where does this ayah go now? Qul ya ayyuhal kafirun. You call somebody a kafir. Yeah? And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he spoke about the kafir, he said, the one who converts to Islam, none of his previous deeds are going to be accepted. Yeah, you're doing good all your life as a kafir, but is that going to be accepted now? No. When you become Muslim, whatever you do, that is going to be accepted. So after that, I can't say, for example now, how can I call a kafir? You know what I commit? If I don't call a kafir, I become a kafir. Why? Imam Shafi, he said, anybody he has doubt that the kafir is a kafir, he becomes a kafir. And you know the kufr that you commit of not calling the kafir a kafir, it is known as kufr al-takzib. That is mentioned over there, kufr al-takzib. That is the kufr of denial. Meaning you're calling Allah a liar. When he said, Kul ya ayyuhal kafirun, who was he talking about then? If Allah didn't call anybody a kafir, and you can't recite that verse now, because maybe you become banned under the incitement to religious hatred, then what the hell are you going to do with that verse? What do we do with this ayah? More than that, what do we do with the hadith? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, there cannot be 2 things in the heart of a mu'min, iman and kufr. If they meet, iman and kufr are inside the heart, then he is a kafir. Yeah? But what people are confused about is in relation to the judgment of the takfeer between the dunya and the akhir. In the akhirah. Yeah? We know anybody who dies upon kufr, then obviously this man, he will go to the hellfire. However now, when we talk about the dunya in the akhirah, we judge somebody as a mu'min or as a kafir in this life, not in the hereafter. Because we don't know the judgment what Allah has made for him in the hereafter. Except by the dahir, by the apparent. Doesn't mean we go now into the other extreme now and say, all the Jews and the Christians, they're all going to go to paradise. Because not for us to judge. No, we understand that in this life, we judge somebody by the dahir, but if somebody dies, we don't make testification that this person is definitely going to go to the hellfire, unless there is text to specify otherwise. So in relation to the akam, for us, we're not concerned about the akhirah of the person. Put it this way. The nukta uli baat is, I couldn't give a monkey whether this man goes to heaven or hell. It's not up to me, it doesn't affect me. I'm worried about myself whether I go to heaven or hell. Yeah? If he wants to go to hell, it's up to him. It's up to Allah Azza wa Jal to decide in relation to the akam, in relation to the akhirah. But our problem is in the understanding the akam in relation to this life. How do we judge this person? Mu'min or kafir? Yeah? So for example, we can give you another example of the people of Fatr. People of Fatr are the people of Fitrah. And Allah Azza wa Jal, He said He will never punish a people unless He sends them a messenger. So those people, they've been living somewhere in the Congo, in the Zimbabwe. No Nabi may come to them. He never heard about Islam. We don't comment about it. We make tawakkuf. We stop until messenger, he come to him. Yeah? Maybe he could be die upon the fitrah, and maybe he become wahid. Not necessarily everybody, they practice deen of monotheism with Nabi to come to them, or for somebody to explain to them Quran. That's why we know the children are what? Ahl fitrah. The children, we don't even call the children Ahl fitrah. We call the children Ahl Jannah. That's why whenever I've been in a talk, and I say, the kids are making too much noise. They said, yeah, Ahl Jannah, they like to play. Because that child, if he dies, he's sinless. He got to Jannah. Something you and me ain't got. You see? So we need to understand that. But in the Akhirah, we say, it is up to Allah Azza wa Jal to judge the people. Now, the kafir, when we talk about the kafir, sorry, you wanted to ask a question?
Yeah, I was going to say, you say that they're saying to someone, for example, that this person is going to be in heaven.
Only by text. We only say, look, with that one, if somebody been mentioned by Rasulullah, Abu Bakr fil Jannah, we say Ahl Jannah. Anybody after that, nobody Rasulullah spoke about. So for that one, we always say, Inshallah. Jannah, Inshallah. Jannah, Inshallah doesn't mean I'm saying you will go to Jannah, like definite. Even when I say to you, like, I'll turn up at 5 o'clock. Inshallah. But not the Saudi Inshallah. Inshallah, I never turn up, yeah? No, Inshallah meaning, I hope, Inshallah, we make dua to Allah, that by the will of Allah, Inshallah you get the Jannah. We never testify for anybody Jannah except by text, who's been mentioned by name. It could be, we can say for example, by description, these people are people of Jannah. So for example, the people who pray Salah, people who do fasting. And we discussed the issue of Jannah anyway, yeah? But that's what you need to understand. All you need to understand, Nukta wal Ibat is, we don't judge by the people by their akhirah, we leave that to Allah. But in this life, we do judge. We judge people whether they be mu'min or kafir. Now as far as the term kafir is concerned, we discussed this in Nawaqid al-Islam, but kafir could be somebody kafir asli or kafir murtad. Kafir asli is original kafir. He could be Jew, Christian, Hindu, Sikh, meek, weak, freak. He could be that type of kafir. Or it could be somebody kafir murtad. Kafir murtad. And now, I will get up, and now you need to do a lot of hard work now. I will explain to you the whole foundations of what is al-takfeer. First of all, we understand what is al-takfeer. Who can tell me what is al-takfeer now?
Just to identify someone as a kafir and then call the kafir.
Call the kafir a kafir. Now, we have three types of people within the West. We have people who are Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Incorrect. Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, that term is only attributed to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companions. So what we can say is Ahl Itba'. Ahl Itba' or Ahl Ittiba' are those people who follow Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Rasulullah said, my ummah will be divided into 73 sects. All of them would be in the hellfire except one. Who? Except me and my companions. They are the saved sect, Al-Firqatul Najiyah. And anybody who follows them, inshallah, they will get the Jannah. So the people, from this ummah, we have people who are Ahlul Qibla. Who's Ahlul Qibla? All sects, from the deviants to Ahlul Haq, to Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. So give me an example of a deviant sect now. Give me a name. Brelvis, Deobandis, Sufis, Murjiya, Mu'tazila, Ash'ira, all of those are deviant sects. Give me a name of the safe sect. Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Okay, so all of them, in the Akhirah they will be judged in accordance to their actions. And all of them, the deviant sect and the safe sect, they can go to either Jannah or Jahannam based upon their good deeds. But what saves the safe sect? What makes a safe sect the safe sect? By maybe a badge. Do I have to buy a certificate? Do I have to put something around my neck? Do I have to have a 7-story turban and a big belly and lipstick on? No. What makes the safe sect is the Aqidah. And the ayah can be found in Surah Ali Imran about this, that there will be people on Yawm al-Qiyamah, some people whose faces will be dark, and some people whose faces will be bright. And those people who will be bright will be Ahlul Jannah. Who's the people whose faces will be dark? The black people? No, we're not racist. Those people who, Abdullah ibn Abbas, he explained this ayah, Surah Ali Imran, those people whose faces will be dark will be Ahlul Bidah wal Firqa. Those people who are deviant in their Aqidah. And those people who are Ahlul Jannah, whose faces will be bright, will be Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. So we want to be from Ahlul Itba'. We don't attribute this title to ourselves and say, we are Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Completely wrong. That title, it only goes to the companions, to the first generation. Even the hadith of Rasulullah said, the best generation is who? My generation. Then those that follow them and those that follow them. But who are the guaranteed Jannah? Imam Abu Hanifa? No. Imam Malik? No. Abu Bakr? Yes. So when we say Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, or when the term comes to you, As-Salafu Salih. As-Salafu Salih is the pious predecessors. Everybody has their Salaf. My grandmother, she's a Salafi. She's Salaf. She's my Salaf. Your grandfather, he's a Salaf as well. Yeah? But that Salaf from our past could be either Salaf or could be somebody Talaf. Salaf means good. Talaf means bad. So from our pious Salafu Salih, we have Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. But then we have something called As-Salafu Talih. Who's As-Salafu Talih? Fir'aun, Nimrud, Lady Diana. Not much of a lady. She was having it off with a Harrods man. Yeah? So, As-Salafu Salih and As-Salafu Talih. As-Salafu Salih, your mind will always go to the first generation of Muslims, Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. And then those who follow them, then those who follow them. So we want to be Ahl Ittiba'. So inshallah, amongst that line, and this is what we believe, is people nowadays, we'll make it very clear, people like Imam Anwar al-Awlaki, people like Sheikh Abu Hamza, people like Sheikh Abu Qatada, people like Sheikh Umar, people like Abu Muhammad al-Maqdisi, Nasir al-Fahad, Ayman al-Zawahiri. I'm not glorifying terrorism, but I believe he's from that. Why? Because if I want to know now who is from the safe sect, I go back to the understanding of the safe sect and I look to them and I see who today contradicts that. If you contradict that, you're not following the safe sect. Meaning to follow the safe sect means to follow Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, you follow them in Aqidah, in belief matters, as well as fiqh, as well as manhaj as well. All three of them. Somebody who could be deviant in relation to his fiqh, or maybe he's got wrong juristic understanding. Doesn't mean he's deviant inside Aqidah. In some fiqh issue, we could have difference of opinion. But in Aqidah, there's no such thing as difference of opinion. Don't bring me ikhtilaf in Aqidah. No such thing called that. So Ahl Ittiba'. Then we, amongst them, all three of these, we got people who are the Talafis, and then we have people who are the Ikhwani Murjiyah. Ikhwani Murjis. Now, there's been, over the last 40, 50 years, there's been a problem within the Asian subcontinent. What's the biggest problems in relation to the deen in Afghanistan or India and Pakistan and Bangladesh? Shirk. People have been worshipping graves. So we had a massive decline of the ummah. So what's happened is there's been a revival of this deen, revival of Asul al-Deen, of the foundations of this deen, of Tawheed. Islam channel, all of the scholars that come on, they never contradict those basic principles of shirk. When they talk about shirk, they talk about shirk of the graves. They're quite good, they're quite solid in that. We must say that. The Salafis, whatever type of Salafi you are, because there's different brands of Salafis nowadays as well, yeah? Like you get the Coca-Cola flavor and you get the coffee color, and you get all different types of Salafis nowadays. But generally in relation to shirk, all of them are pretty much good. In the orthodox understanding of, basic understanding of shirk akbar, or those masail al-jaliyah, those clear-cut matters of shirk, for example, worshipping idol, putting ta'weez around your neck, slaughtering a sheep in the name of a monkey, then people, they understand that. They haven't got too much of a problem of that. However, when this type of revival of Tawheed started to take place in the late 80s and late 90s, early 90s, excuse me, you had organizations such as Salafi publications appear, such as Al-Athariya, such as Salafi Talk, Salafi Net, Salafi this, and now you have Salafi Media. Yeah. Then what happened was, you had the Bosnian War which took place, and you had the Chechnya War which took place in the 90s. Some people started to say jihad become fardul ain. Then we had, previous to that, Afghan war which took place in the Soviet Union. Around that period of the 90s, there was a split amongst the original Salafis inside this country, and then you had another organization appear known as Jimmas. There was a split amongst those scholars. Why was there such a split? Because what's the number one thing, apart from the issue of the rulers, but what's the number one problem which the Salafis they have with? Aki, don't talk politics. Don't talk jihad. Separate the Sharia from your life's affairs. Don't discuss what's going on outside. If you ask them what happened in Palestine today, Aki, we know what the ulama they said. Ulama said, shut your mouth and don't look at these matters. So concentrate on yourself. Yeah? So people start to say, no, we do need to be concerned about the Iraq war. We do need to be concerned about Chechnya. So people started to fundraise for jihad. People started to go to jihad. People started to go to Chechnya. People started to go to training camps inside Afghanistan. There was a split amongst them, and then you had people called the Jimmas. So you had a sort of Salafi jihadi, but not Salafi jihadi as type of understanding how we understand today. And amongst them were people who started to be declared deviant by this group of people. So amongst those Salafis, we have people like Rabi ibn Hadi al-Madkhali, Salih al-Fawzan. In fact, majority of the students of people of Ibn Baz, Uthaymeen, Albani, rahmahullah, may Allah have mercy on his soul. And those students, either they stuck upon that path, and that was a manhaj, so-called manhaj salafiyah, which is actually manhaj talafiyah, which is always picking out the faults of the people, always saying anybody who calls for the Sharia or wants khilafah, this person become Qutubi or Hizbi. Anybody who follows the line of Sayyid Qutb, he become Hizbi or partisanship, or he's into politics, or he become Qaeda, or he become Khawarij. In fact, and we know anybody who fights jihad anywhere in the world today, none of them they go and target Muslims. Are you telling me Osama bin Laden, I was going to say, Osama bin Laden, he goes around looking for Muslims and then you say, let's target all of the Muslims? Of course not. His problem is with occupation of Muslim land. So that split that happened, and those scholars who have been, or Shaykh who have been declared deviant, are people like Bilal Phillips. Why Bilal Phillips he was declared deviant? Because he wrote a book in 1983 known as The Fundamentals of Tawheed, I believe. Yeah? It's a book of Tawheed. It's still published nowadays. And in there he mentioned issues in relation to Hakamiyah. And he criticized secularism and capitalism. That become a problem for the Salafis. Because even though you're not mentioning the ruler and you're not making takfir upon him, you become somebody Hizbi, someone concerned with politics. That's only going to have a natural course of path of events which is going to go on and lead on to you start to say now, if secularism is haram, if ilmaniya or a separation of Islam from life's affairs is not allowed, then what about the king? What is he ruling and judging by? So anybody who start to discuss those affairs start to go over here. Not necessarily all of them, but a large group of them start to anybody who spoke on their platforms of the people who are known as Ikhwani, and I'll explain what we mean by Ikhwani, Murjia, because remember Murjia is somebody who separates action from Iman. Anybody who spoke about politics or current affairs started to be thrown into that basket. So in that basket, and nowadays, if you go to anybody Salafi and you ask them, who is Ikhwani? Who is deviant, or they call it Saruri, for example, another title like that. They will say to you, for example, Haytham al-Haddad, Khalid Yasin, Murtaza Khan, Abdurrahim Green, Yusuf Chambers, Shraib Hassan. These are all known as Ikhwani Murjis in relation to the Salafi Talafis, who are far away from the path of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Because Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they understand deen as being what you believe in Tawheed, live by Sharia, willing to die for da'wah and jihad. They all go hand in hand. Those people who call for Sharia and those people who fight jihad fi sabilillah. So, amongst them you got all of these different people. And amongst them you got different scholars as well. And amongst here you got different scholars as well. What's their contention in relation to takfir? Is this one will say, A'udhu billah, Khariji. This one will say, Akhi, who are we to judge? Iman inside the heart. Meaning they will recognize that there is a problem and we do need solution for our problems nowadays. But in relation to specifically applying takfir upon any of the rulers, they will say, let's just stop and leave it. Let's not discuss these matters. So those are the three groups of people we want to understand in relation to the takfir. The takfir itself is two types. Takfir al-nas, not nas, takfir al-nas, and you have takfir al-ijtihad. Takfir al-nas means by text. Takfir al-nas means, this is quite fun, you know. I could walk up and down here all day long and I get my exercise as well. Takfir al-nas, it means takfir by text. Takfir al-ijtihad, it means not by text. So at takfir, we are talking about identifying somebody as kafir. Before I discuss these two, I will discuss the middle one. The middle one is the easiest one for us to understand. Because what do people they say? This group of people, the Talafis, and this group of people, the Ikhwani Murjis, they will say to you, Aki, do you know the hadith of Rasulullah? The one who calls his brother a kafir, and he's not a kafir, the takfir, it returns back to him. He become a kafir. Now, what incident do they famously quote a lot? Osama ibn Zayd. What was the mistake of Osama bin Zayd? In the battlefield, there was somebody who was kafir, and he took a shahada, and he struck his neck. He went back to Rasulullah to ask about hukum shari. Yeah, he asked about the hukum. The action that I did, is it okay? Was it right what I did? He said, are you telling me, Ya Osama, that you killed somebody Muslim, muwahid, after he declared the shahada? He said, indeed. But as far as I was concerned, the man just said it to save his neck. Like somebody, you can capture him, and for example, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Oh my God, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. And this happened, in fact, inside Iraq. I'm just quoting to you the media, not inside information. There was one man that was captured. I'm not going to mention his name because it will be all over the sandpaper. But there was one man that was captured, and it was famous within the news that he was captured. And he said, I want to become Muslim. The Mujahideen inside Iraq, they said, we're going to go and make shura amongst ourselves. Usually we say under duress, somebody's shahada is not accepted. There was people that were captured during the time of Rasulullah, and they want to say, I want to see Muhammad. I want to say shahada. When you've been released, then say your shahada. Anybody say shahada now, isn't it? Like anybody can be captured and be put inside Guantanamo Bay and say, I want to become American. Nobody does that. Alhamdulillah. We don't have lions like that. We have lions of Tawheed. We don't have pussycats within this ummah. But this man, when he was captured, he said, I want to say the shahada. And they made shura, and they said, okay, we accept your shahada. And in fact, you will fight jihad with us. And more than that, after jihad, you will go back to whatever country you are from, and you'll make da'wah for us. You see, the Mujahideen, they're not barbaric. They don't just capture people and behead them. And they took the orange uniform off, because that's the way they understand. You put orange uniform on my brother over there, I put orange uniform on you over here. But I'm not telling you to do that, because that is illegal solicitation to murder. I'm not a solicitor. Okay? So I don't solicit murder, because I'm not a solicitor. What happened with this man? He said the shahada, and they left him for a day, and they tested him. Put someone there to spy on him. He ran out the door. When he ran out the door, they captured him, and you know what they treated him as? Murtad. The one who ran away from the battlefield, the Amir, he has the permission to kill him. And then they beheaded him, and they put it all over YouTube. And everyone's watching it. He's having his head cut. It's quite painful, in fact. Actually, it's quite quick, in fact. That's why it's not something barbaric. When people say you're going to slaughter the sheep, it's so bad. No, it's not. He can't even see it. The sunnah of cutting the sheep, or slaughtering the sheep incidentally, now that Akam we're going to discuss now, yeah, is, you know, if you've got two sheep, one sheep is not allowed to see the other sheep. If there's two sheep, because this happened with me, I went to go and slaughter one sheep, and there was another one, and he managed to, you know, he's bucking around, he's banging his head, he's got his horns and everything like that, yeah. He managed to like escape, you know, he managed to come out of the wood, and he managed to see the other sheep, and the first sheep, he started literally peeing himself. Weeing himself. I started laughing. Look at him, he's weeing himself. You know, as they say, he's S-scared, isn't it? Like, that's the swear word they say. Look, he's S-scared. Look at he's peeing himself. That's haram. It's not allowed, yes? Not allowed to do that, yeah? So, when the person is slaughtered, you do it suddenly, by surprise. This is the akam of slaughtering a sheep, right? Not persons, not people. I'm not telling you to do that. But when you slaughter a sheep, you do it by sudden surprise. You capture him, and his face must be not facing you, and you do it from the front of the neck, from his jugular vein, from up here, and it's quick. Quick slaughter, take his head off. It's not that painful. On a TV it looks very painful because it looks like the goat is really like, but it's gone. After that, after it's all cut off, he's not going to feel anything. You see?
It's actually pain-free.
Pain-free. Yeah. There you go. Pain-free. I don't know how we ended up on this topic of slaughtering people, slaughtering sheep and takfeer. So, Takfeer al-Hawa, let's discuss this, otherwise they're going to say a bunch of terrorists, man. Takfeer al-Hawa, what's Takfeer al-Hawa? Osama bin Zayd, okay, so now he killed a man, and Rasulullah said, how you kill a man even though he said the shahada? He said, Ya Rasulullah, as far as I was concerned, he only said the shahada to save his own neck. Rasulullah said, Ya Osama, did you open up his heart to check that if he was a mu'min? He said, what will you do if la ilaha illallah comes to you on Yawm al-Qiyamah? What did Osama bin Zayd say? He said, I wish that Iman only came to me that day. Meaning, I wish I only embraced Islam on that particular day. So who was correct? Osama bin Zayd or Rasulullah? Rasulullah. What was the make Osama bin Zayd he done? He judged by the inner, where he should have judged by the dahir. So what was the takfir that he committed? He made takfir. He considered him, when he said someone, look, he's inside the battlefield, he's a kafir. He don't make love with the kafir. Yeah? Somebody captures somebody kafir, he doesn't give him a kebab, innit? He gives him something else. He gives him the kebab stick. Yeah, in his throat. Yeah. So what did he done? He committed the takfir al-hawa, the dispraised takfir. And this one, we say, takfir al-hawa is by your own desire. It can occur. Yeah? And this one is where people, they get confused with the hadith where Rasulullah said, the one who calls his brother a kafir, then he becomes a kafir. So I want to ask a question now. Usama ibn Zayd, he called a man a kafir. He treated the person as a kafir. Right? The man inside the battle, he treated him as a kafir, he killed him. Rasulullah, he dispraised that. If we take the hadith of Rasulullah where he said the one who calls his brother a kafir, he becomes a kafir, for greater analogy, by greater qiyas, if we say if this Osama bin Zayd, he treated him as a kafir, then is Osama bin Zayd a kafir? A'udhu billah. Osama bin Zayd, he was still sent out for jihad afterwards. Yeah? He was made Amir of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq. After, on a deathbed over Rasulullah, he said, La tu'illu jaysha Osama. Do not delay the army of Osama. Osama bin Zayd, he led Abu Bakr as-Siddiq in jihad. So this hadith, when we discuss that hadith, that the one who calls his brother a kafir, then the takfir returns back to him. That is discussing takfir al-hawa, is dispraised. It's not matter which is that takes you outside the fold of Islam, and that hadith is only used by those Talafis and by those Ikhwani Murjis as an excuse for you not to make takfir on anybody who commits any of those Masail al-Jali, any of those clear-cut matters which take you outside the fold of Islam. So when I want to describe takfir al-hawa, what's takfir al-hawa? Takfir al-hawa, by definition, it is by your own desire, just randomly to say kafir. Where are you from? Back home. Alright. I'm from Pakistan. India. Same thing. Alright? All good. Don't have to have nationalism and asabiyah. Start killing each other, yeah? When the people have arguments amongst each other, brother, they say everything under the sun. Your mom, teri pen, teri ma, tera pyo, your mom, your dad, your sister, you kafir, you Jew, you son of a Jew, everything. That is takfir al-hawa. Meaning from your own desire, you start to say, you kafir, you kafir. If I'm a kafir, you're a bigger kafir than a kafir. Ooh, that's a big one. Everyone's he's a bigger kafir than a kafir. So takfir al-hawa is to say it from your own desire. This one is haram. But the two major types of takfir, they are takfir al-nas, and takfir al-ijtihad. What is takfir al-nas? Takfir al-nas, it is to call somebody kafir who has been mentioned by either name or description. Yeah. By name or description. And that could be two types of takfir. And this is going to be applicable a lot. You need to understand this. Takfir al-nawa, takfir al-mu'ayn. General takfir, meaning generic. We call this generic takfir. This generic takfir meaning actions which take you outside the fold of Islam. So somebody, for example, so we can say Barelwis, or a bunch of group of people. I don't want to use Barelwis, yeah? A bunch of people now. They're all saying, Hallelujah, La ilaha illallah. Okay. These people are doing generic kufr. Hallelujah is not allowed. What is hallelujah in relation to which deen? Christians. So they're doing, but are they all individual kafir? No. We have takfir mu'ayn. So takfir is two types, or two types, and then we have two sort of subdivisions and in relation to how we apply it. The two types are takfir al-nas. Takfir al-nas in relation to anybody who Allah called by name kafir or by description kafir in the Quran. Yes? And the other one is takfir al-ijtihad. Takfir al-ijtihad is to identify somebody as a kafir who has not been mentioned via the text as a kafir. So, takfir al-nas. Let's just discuss this, and we'll discuss nawa and mu'ayn. Nawa is by general, mu'ayn is by text. These two are both fall into ijtihad. What's the difference between these two now? I know I'm going to repeat myself. I want to repeat myself because I want you to understand. Because if you don't understand this, there's no point in me carrying on. Alright? Takfir al-nas is by text. So let's discuss these quickly. By text, Allah has described actions which take you outside the fold of Islam. Ruling by man-made law. Istihlal, making haram halal. This is just random, by the way. This is not a whole list, because we're going to discuss this, and we're going to discuss maybe about, I think it's 19 or 60 ways to become kafir later on. Anyone who wears a cross, these are actions of kufr. Bows down to an idol, tashri, he makes legislation, jahud, he turns his back on the deen of Allah or some ayat. Kufr istiza is in relation to mocking the deen of Allah. And we mentioned this example in the Jannah talk or Jahannam talk. Kufr istiza, about the people who were laughing at the companions. Yeah, remember that one? Kufr arad. Yeah, kufr arad. Jahud is denial, I believe. Jahud is denial, I believe. Irad, to turn your back from the deen. Nifaq, hypocrisy. Shak, to have conjecture or doubt. Then we have kufr takzeeb. Kufr takzeeb, to deny. So for example, no such chapter as Surah Al-Ikhlas. Shirk and istibdal. Istibdal, to replace the laws of Allah. These are known as Masail al-Jali. Masail al-Jali, those clear-cut matters. So all of these are in relation to takfir al-nas. These can be applied when we see anybody who does those actions. When we see somebody who does those actions and he doesn't have anything called prevention of takfir, or anything which can prevent us calling him kafir, then we will call him by mu'ayn, by ayn kafir, by name. We will specify he is a kafir. But we'll discuss that a little later on. But here we just want to understand one matter. When I say takfir al-nas, your mind goes to by text, by description, or by name. By name, for example, we can mention a couple of people who are kafir. Waleed ibn Mughira. Waleed ibn Mughira, he's from the Quraysh. And what did the ayah say about him? That he doesn't believe, nor does he pray. He's kafir. To deny that now, you commit kufr takzeeb. Yeah? You deny that. Abu Lahab, he's reciting the surah. Yeah? In the salah. Abu Lahab, mentioned by text, he is kafir. Nimrud, Fir'aun. Other people as well, by text and by hadith, will be mentioned that these people are kafir. For example, Abu Lu'lu. Who is Abu Lu'lu? He was the one who assassinated Umar al-Faruq. So people will be mentioned by text that they are kafir. Now, in relation to somebody who's not been mentioned by text, these rules of takfir al-mu'ayn and takfir al-nawa is still principles, or I don't know what the correct wording to use is. We can still use those principles, yeah, in relation to people who commit kufr today. How? George Bush, is he mentioned in the Quran? No, he's not. But he's somebody kafir asli. So by description, I call him kafir. Why? Because under this also is kafir asli as well. Jews and Christians have been called kafir. They're kafirun. Yeah? Qul ya kafirun, and there's many ayahs discussing that. So for example, somebody else now, he makes ridda from the deen. He makes ridda from the deen. He does an action which takes him outside the fold of Islam. That we call takfir al-ijtihad. Important matters which you want to understand in relation to takfir al-nawa. In relation to takfir al-nawa, we say this person, he has no excuse he has no excuse in relation to takfir al-nas, and this one has chain takfir. Chain takfir meaning, if I don't call Abu Lahab kafir, I become a kafir. Why? Because I deny the ayah of Allah. What about Jews and Christians now? If I don't call them a kafir, I become a kafir. Why? Because this one being mentioned by text. Being mentioned by text. And also, and one of the negations of Iman as well. Sheikh Abdul Wahab in his Nawaqid al-Islam, he said, the one who doesn't call a kafir, he become a kafir. Yeah? And likewise, I want to go back to that example which I gave you. My sheikh, he gives me a fatwa. For example, that there's two gods. If I don't call my sheikh a kafir, I become a kafir. Why? Because there's something called shirk ta'a. If he's still my sheikh, because remember, if the hujjah can be either by the text, could be via my alim. If my alim, he gives me some evidence, then I must follow him. On Yawm al-Qiyamah, I've got no excuse. Because the ayah said, فَاسْأَلُوا الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. If you don't know, ask those who have knowledge. What am I going to say on Yawm al-Qiyamah? I didn't know about a particular matter, so I started to ask one particular sheikh. What the hell am I going to do on Yawm al-Qiyamah? It's going to be hujjah against me. So this one has chain takfir, and it has no difference of opinion. There's no difference of opinion on any of these. Somebody walks inside the room now, and he says, Assalamu alaikum. What are you going to say to him? Okay. Somebody comes inside the room, and he wears a cross. He says, Assalamu alaikum. What do you say to him? Why? We got Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah inside the room. Alhamdulillah. Muhaddeen are inside the house. Ahl Sunnah inside the house. Very good. I like it. We judge by the dahir. We judge by the apparent. These actions, they have no difference of opinion. So, Ka'b ibn Ashraf is being mentioned, Fir'aun, the Jews. So, takfir al-nas, you need to understand one particular matter, that it could be either by group of people or by specifically by name. Anybody who commits those actions, I don't care if your name is Ahmed. You can call yourself Ahmed, you can call yourself John. The fact that you wore a cross, I judge by the dahir. However, just fast forwarding now, somebody who's become Muslim 10 minutes ago, come inside the room, say Assalamu alaikum. Yeah? and he says, which way do I pray? Towards the White House or towards the Black House? I said, A'udhu Billah. I'm not going to call him kafir. This man knew Muslim. Give him some excuse of ignorancy. Yeah? But somebody come inside the room now, Shaykh al-Islam, and he says to you, for example, Allah said in the Quran, there is no fighting, no qital, no jihad. What are you talking about? This one made kufr of denial. Yeah? He made rad from the deen. This man, I call him kafir. No prevention of takfir. You know why? Because the same individual who said that, he said he's Shaykh al-Islam. He call himself Shaykh al-Islam. You call himself Shaykh al-Islam. He could do that. For example now, let's give another example. Let's try to apply this to our reality now. Fir'aun, he is kafir. Are you sure about that? Yes. And who is his minister? Haman. Haman is the minister of Fir'aun. If somebody does the exact same job of him, we call that kufr an-nawa, generic takfir. He's committed one of those acts. I must make takfir upon him. I must make takfir upon him. Now, you have something also known as takfir al-ijtihad. Takfir al-ijtihad. So let me just mention the points in relation to takfir al-nas, which you need to write down. Is the kafir specified by text? And that could be either by name or description. Could be Fir'aun, could be Waleed ibn Mughira, could be Abu Jahl, could be Ka'b ibn Ashraf, Fir'aun, Jews, Christians, could be any group, could be any individual. I hope you got that down, yeah? Not word for word, but generally I hope you generally understood that. Secondly, this under this you need to understand that this has no excuse. This has no excuse and is fard for a person to make takfir upon this, because nothing in between mu'min and kafir except somebody munafiq. And to say that no, if someone does this action, he doesn't become kafir, then you make takzib in kalamullah. You're saying Allah is a liar. Thirdly, Imam Shafi, he said, whoever doubts that the kafir is a kafir, he becomes a kafir. So that's another consequence of not making takfir al-nas. You must make takfir al-nas. That's obliged upon everybody. You don't need to be alim for that. You don't need to be alim to understand shaitan, he's a kafir. Fir'aun, he's a kafir. Also, there's no excuse of ignorancy. Even if the Fir'aun's name is Ahmed, we don't care. There's no ikhtilaf. There's no ijtihad and no fatwa. So when I give the example of my fatwa, my sheikh, he says so and so, this is what you need to remember. And this has chain takfir. Now, the other one that we want to discuss is takfir al-ijtihad. This one is for a matter which there is no text about. Okay. This has no chain takfir. What's takfir al-ijtihad? Takfir al-ijtihad is to call somebody a kafir who has not been mentioned by name or by description. So he's done something, a particular action, which takes him outside the fold of Islam. We're not going to discuss those things that take the person outside the fold of Islam. There's a whole different topic on its own now. But this has no chain takfir. Why? Because what is ijtihad? Al-ijtihad is to exhaust, you need to write this down, utmost effort. In fact, I can sit down now. That's all I need from the board. Takfir al-ijtihad, it is, and I want you to get this word for word, to exhaust utmost effort in checking a reality, which is a new reality. Then to scan the evidences, meaning Quran, Sunnah, Ijma Sahaba, so on and so forth, and to derive a hukum. But you understand what was hukum before, okay? To derive a hukum for a reality which doesn't have a specific text by name, by the least amount of doubt. Now, in English, what that means is a new reality. That's why some of the ulama, they say to scan to scan a new reality, to exhaust utmost effort in understanding a new reality, that is 2/3 of ijtihad. So I want to understand there's a new reality which has come about now. A new reality which has come about, and I think I wrote it on the board. Jack Daniels. Yeah, good. Alright, a new reality is, by text we know alcohol is haram. Yeah? Alcohol is haram. The one who says alcohol is halal, he made istihlal. He made haram halal. But new reality says now, that there's a new reality come about now, that says there's a drink called Jack Daniels. Alright, let's go to An-Nas, to the text now. Yeah? Now we go to the Quran. Where does it say that Jack Daniels is haram? It doesn't. It's a new reality. So I studied that new reality, and that's 2/3 of ijtihad. And then I started to scan the evidences. When I scan the evidence tells me alcohol is haram. From that I derive a hukum. What did I derive? alcohol is haram, and Jack Daniels, by its reality, contains what? Are you sure about that? How do you know that? You drank it? Okay then. Alright, we're sure about that, okay? What about the chewing gum? How do you know that's haram or halal? Just joking. Okay? But it doesn't have a specific text by name, and because I exhausted utmost effort, I understood that there is a least amount of doubt that such and such matter is haram. That is ijtihad. Ijtihad is to exhaust utmost effort to understand a new reality, to scan the evidences, to derive a hukum for reality which doesn't have a specific text by name, by the least amount of doubt. So those are 4 points. We'll summarize what I just said in 4 points in relation to ijtihad. Ijtihad is first of all known as Tahqiq al-manat. That is to verify the reality. So I want to check now, is that what is really going on with the reality? What is the reality of, for example, voting? What's voting about? Somebody will say that's a matter of ijtihad. It's not a matter of ijtihad. Yeah, because we know you can change the name of it, but it's still the same thing. But we'll just use an example now of alcohol, for example. Yeah, you verify the reality. Secondly, you check the evidences. Thirdly, you trace the evidences. You trace the evidences in similarity. So you done the trace in similarity with the evidences, yeah? So I said alcohol is not allowed. Jack Daniels, by default, it contains alcohol. Is not allowed. And then the fourth one is known as istinbat. I think I wrote this on the board. Verify the reality. Check the evidences. Trace the evidences in a similar reality. And fourthly, istinbat is to apply the hukum in relation to that reality. So for example, now, somebody, he calls himself Mustafa Kemal Ataturk. By description, I know he's kafir, but even if you want to argue and say by takfir al-ijtihad, because he's not mentioned by name, Mustafa Kemal Ataturk, he replaced the Sharia, he banned the hijab, or Zainul Abidin Ben Ali. I call him Bin Ali. Yeah? But not Bin Ali bin Laden, no. Just Bin Ali because he goes in the bin. Of Tunisia. He banned the hijab, he prevented the youth from going inside the masajid. More than that, he's a kafir anyway. Why? Because he replaced the law of Allah. So, either which way, whether you want to discuss from takfir al-nas, or whether by takfir al-ijtihad, this person, he has gone outside the fold of Islam. And there's no ijtihad, however, there's no ijtihad on something which we have text about already. Someone can't say now, for example, new reality is alcohol. No, alcohol has already been mentioned. So there's no ijtihad on where there is definitive text. When there is ayah or hadith mentioned that, for example, to grow the beard is wajib, you grow the beard. Whether alcohol is haram, then alcohol is haram. And there is no sin on this. No sin. Why? Because it's a matter of ijtihad. You exhausted the effort to understand a new reality, and the one who is correct, he gets one who is incorrect, he gets 1 reward, and the one who is correct, he gets 2 rewards. Because he still exhausted utmost effort in relation to that. So now let's give an example of takfir al-ijtihad now. Takfir al-ijtihad. Somebody comes inside the room and I say to him, for example, who is Allah? He says to me, dizzy rascal. I say, alright, kafir. Clear cut. Alright, but now I want to just check a little bit of the reality now. Because dizzy rascal is a new reality now. What's dizzy rascal? Is it dizzy, whatever it is, yeah? Dizzy rascal, we just heard these type of names now, yeah? If I ask him now, what's your dad's name? Dizzy rascal. What's your mum's name? Dizzy rascal. How old are you? Dizzy rascal. Where you been born? Dizzy rascal. This man Majnoon. He is Majnoon. This one, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, the pen is lifted from the Majnoon. And if you can't verify, you stop. So we're just trying to understand now and just comprehend how the takfir takes place. By text, by name, by description, or by somebody who has a complete new reality. Yeah? Some people, they want to argue now and say, for example, voting is a matter of ijtihad. No. The term voting might be new, but by description, we know so clearly that you're choosing another legislator. You just give it a different name. Yeah? But new reality, we can talk about many different examples. For example, new reality come nowadays. For example now, we want to know the hukum now. Because remember, now you understand why I discussed the taklifi rules. Yeah? The ahkam in relation to the taklifi rules. With wajib, haram, makruh. New reality come about now. Let's test this out now. We're going to test it out now with brother Abu Bakr now. Put him on the spot now. New reality is internet. Is it mentioned by Quran? Okay. Where's your proof? You read the Quran. So there's nothing in there to say internet is haram. Okay. By text, there's nothing to prohibit it. By the new reality, you understood what is the internet. You know what the internet is now. It's a wire and it sends a signal and you view whatever it is on there. Okay. So what's the hukum in relation to that? There's nothing by text to prohibit it because you scan the evidences. You try to find a similarity. There's no similarity within there. So it is issue of mubah. Internet is mubah, permissible for you to use. However, can become haram. How? If you do something haram with it. And can become something very good to use, in fact, as well. Yeah, because you start to do some fard via it. Maybe it becomes your timetable for your salah. So you understand that. Now let me give you another example. And that was example number 1, which I gave you of Dizzy Rascal, with regards to takfir al-ijtihad. This one, I'm going to give you example of Zayd and Ubayd. Zayd and Ubayd. Zayd and Ubayd, they went to school and they're best friends and they've known each other for such a long, long time. One day, Zayd is walking inside North Wheezy. And inside North Wheezy, he sees Ubayd, and he's got a... It's from North Wheezy, isn't it? With the West Wheezy. I don't know whether they call it the Wheezy Wheezy. He's got a cross around his neck. 4 things can occur with regards to Ubayd, Zayd, when he sees him. Number 1, and I'm going to tell you what is correct and what is incorrect with regards to the ijtihad. Or not even ijtihad, just in relation to this person doing this act of kufr. Number 1, he believes he has an excuse. Because when he goes up to him and he says, Ubayd, what happened to you? And he starts to say, la 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 la. It's not even la 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 la. He goes, la 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 la, like that. This man is majnoon, so he calls him Muslim. That is correct. That is correct. Right? Because he had talazum between his inner and his outer. Yeah? He's checked between his inner and outer. He didn't start to say, no, I know, but I know he's majnoon, but maybe inside his heart he is kafir. He never judged the inner. He judged the dahir. That is correct. Second circumstance could be, he doesn't know what to do, so he can't verify. He doesn't know what does la 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 mean. Maybe that's a new language. Yeah? So he makes tawakkuf. Tawakkuf, it means he stops. And that is correct. That is also correct. And the third point is, he has no excuse. He believes, Ubayd, he has no excuse, and he believes he's a kafir, and he calls him a kafir, and that is also correct. Yeah? Third one, he believes that Ubayd, he has no excuse, he's wearing a cross around his neck, and he believes that this person is a proper Christian, and he identifies him as a kafir, and calls him a kafir. That is correct. Oh my God. And your talk. Oh, why did you tell me? Alright, we're going to have to do something about that. Okay, fourth a reality could be, he believes Ubayd has no excuse of ignorancy, and he believes he's a kafir, but he calls him a Muslim. What's that? Correct or incorrect? Incorrect. Fifth one is he's someone scared, and he believes he has no prevention of any takfir, and he calls him a mu'min, and that is incorrect. So we're just trying to understand our different realities, but obviously these realities you won't be able to comprehend until we study the topic Mawani at-Takfir. Now, the one who says, for example now, I'm not going to make takfir, that is complete nonsense. Because Allah Azza wa Jal, He said, Allah, He speaks the haqq. So if Allah described by text now, that this person he becomes kafir, you cannot say that if the person does this particular action, he doesn't become a kafir. We're not talking about specifically now, calling him a kafir now. Meaning the action. For you to say, this action doesn't make somebody a kafir, so you can't call him, specify that he's a kafir, that is completely wrong, because Allah said He speaks the truth, and Rasulullah, He said, the mu'min, he does not lie. The mu'min, he does not lie. Also, if you have conviction, and that is the most important part now, of takfir al-ijtihad. Takfir al-nas is by text. Takfir al-ijtihad, after understanding the reality and scanning the evidences, if you don't have conviction, with meaning you remove the least amount of doubt, you stop, you don't call him a kafir. It is a matter of conviction as well. That's what we mean by you get the one reward, or you get 2 rewards. 1 reward if he's incorrect, and 2 rewards if he's correct. Yeah? You must have conviction about that. So, because the kufr, it always overrides the iman. And certain things we also need to understand, they don't have any prevention of takfir. Now, example number 3. Example number 3 is someone from Quilliam Foundation now. Queer Foundation. He says, for example, we need to join the British government, join the British army, and go and bomb Muslims inside Afghanistan, for example. This is a new reality. We extract the hukum with least amount of doubt via the evidences. We checked all of the reality with all exhaustion. We exhausted ourselves with no doubt and conviction, and now we apply the hukum of takfir to him. Why? Because we are ummah, my dear brothers, who don't but judge anything based upon doubt. What's one of the conditions of the shahada? Yaqeen. You must have yaqeen upon what you believe upon. On this one, you must have yaqeen, takfir al-nas. And on ijtihad, you must have conviction. But that conviction cannot be implemented until you committed all of the 4 points of ijtihad, until you verified the reality, checked the evidences, traced the evidences in similar reality, and made istinbat, until you applied the hukum in relation to this person. Otherwise, we are either liars, munafiq, or we are Shia. And none of us, we want to be like that. We don't become liar, we don't want to become munafiq, and we don't want to make people who have tuqiyah. We can't be murjia, mutazali, and we can't be people in between. We can't say, for example, we're not going to apply the hukum in relation to reality, of our reality, that Isha Salah has come in, and we're not going to make wudu. What kind of deen is that? We need to apply every hukum shari, it needs to be applied in accordance to its own reality. Whether that reality was mentioned by text, or whether that is a new reality not mentioned by text, the hukum, it needs to be applied by its reality. That is, my dear brothers, the introduction to al-takfir. So do you understand now? Any questions you got? Ask.
This is something definitely you have to go back home and put in order.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. So that's why I didn't want you to write this all down. I wanted you really to just understand. But the main 3 points you want to understand from this is this. Only 2 types of takfir. The third one we're not even going to concentrate on. That's why I mentioned this one first. Takfir al-hawa is haram. Takfir al-nas is fard for you to do, because it's mentioned by text, by description or by name. And the third one is takfir al-ijtihad. This one is not mentioned by text, but it's a new reality, but you go back to the evidences to scan them and derive a hukum and apply it to that new reality. That is a massive topic, I know. Just by that, you're probably going to have a headache. But we're going to study that when we start to discuss what are the preventions of takfir and how does kufr akbar and kufr asghar correlate.
So takfir al-hawa,
Yeah.
you can say you do this,
Yeah.
that doesn't make you a kafir.
No, that's kufr, duna kufr. That's what Rasulullah said. Rasulullah said, the one who calls his brother a kafir, and he's not a kafir, then the kufr returns back to him. Yeah? So when Osama bin Zayd, he done exactly that. He made takfir al-hawa. Yeah? We're not trying to dispraise Osama bin Zayd when we say that, A'udhu Billah, but we're just using that by way of example. Did Osama bin Zayd, he become a kafir? No, he didn't. Yeah? But when we talk about the one who doesn't, so when we talk about the one who doesn't, the one who calls somebody a kafir, and he's not a kafir, by exhausting effort, he still gets reward for it. He's sinless. That's takfir al-ijtihad. So when we say, for example, so-and-so person, he's committed this kufr, and we're going to call him kafir now, yeah? Then that is takfir al-ijtihad. The reason why we needed to distinguish takfir al-hawa from takfir al-ijtihad and takfir al-nas is because people, they're confusing takfir al-hawa with takfir al-ijtihad. So when you make takfir al-nas, or takfir al-ijtihad now, yeah? Takfir al-ijtihad, meaning a new reality, you say, this person has become a kafir, meaning you're applying the hukum. You're not just talking about generic now. We're not just concerned with takfir al-nawa, that generically this action makes you become a kafir. Tanafis, they discuss that in their books. They say, so-and-so action makes you become a kafir. They got the books for it. But do they apply it to the reality? They don't apply it to the reality. Meaning what takfir that they don't make? Takfir al-mu'ayn. By name do they call somebody who commits the actions of Abu Lahab or Fir'aun, or any of those matters which are Masail al-Jali, those clear-cut matters which take you out the fold of Islam, which have no excuse of ignorancy. That's why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, obey the leader, obey him until you see kufr bawa. And when you see kufr bawa, you strike the neck. All ulama, they understand that, and I will discuss that in the next session, about where the ulama, they stated so, yeah? And the Sahaba, they understood that. You don't rise against the ruler, we obey the ruler, even if he's Abyssinian slave, even if he lashes your back, even if he commits the kufr, duna kufr. The ruler, he can commit 2 types of kufr. He can either do some sin, for example, he's my son, and I say, I'm not going to chop his hand, because he's my son. That's kufr, duna kufr. Yeah, by not ruling and judging by what Allah has revealed. Or it can become kufr akbar, where, for example, I say, I'm going to abolish that hudud now. I'm going to abolish the hudud. I'm going to stop the zakah. I'm going to stop the collecting of the jizya. That become kufr akbar. That become denying denying the laws of Allah, replacing the laws of Allah, or implementing kufr law above that. Meaning even making haram halal, or istibdal, or replacing the laws of Allah. That takes you outside the fold of Islam. Talafis, they get those matters confused. Whether, forget the kufr, don't know kufr now, but the issue of takfir al-hawa. So what do? For any type of takfir, mu'ayn, specifically applying the takfir, they say, Akhi, this one is wrong. Why? Because they understand that as takfir al-hawa. That is the most important thing that you need to understand. Takfir al-hawa, takfir al-nas, and takfir al-ijtihad. Next week we will discuss the consequences of not making takfir.
And what takfir can make you a kafir?
None.
None.
None. Only haram, which is takfir al-hawa. When we said the hadith, the one who calls his brother a kafir, he becomes a kafir. But if we start applying that, that will become complete chaos for us now. If I say, out of argument now, I'll say to him, kafir. What kind of deen is that? That everybody starts to become kafir now. Everybody's going to start to become kafir now, just because on hawa. So there's no such thing as calling your brother a kafir, which makes you become a kafir, because we need to distinguish. There is kufr akbar and kufr duna kufr. There is a distinction. That's why we have a principle even in the Sharia that any text in the Quran is kufr akbar or shirk akbar in the Quran unless there is divine indication to prove otherwise. Meaning there must be hadith to prove otherwise. You see? That's why when we say those who do not rule by whatever Allah has revealed, that is kufr akbar, unless there is text to specify otherwise. When Allah talks about shirk, He always talks about it in an akbar sense. The other evidences and the other hadith, when they will be able to help us to distinguish between shirk akbar and shirk asghar. Otherwise, where in the Quran it said such and such thing is shirk asghar? How do you know if such and such thing is shirk akbar and shirk asghar? But that would be in our 7th session, or it won't be session 7 anyway, but that will be one of the 7th topic which we're going to discuss. What are the types of kufr? What is kufr duna kufr? And how do we know when kufr is kufr akbar or kufr asghar? That's a massive, massive topic on its own. And that's going to be probably about 2 hours or something like that. Anyway, And we'll discuss the different types of kufr. And we'll discuss how kufr duna kufr, or minor kufr, can become kufr akbar. And how shirk asghar can become shirk akbar. We need to be aware of that as Muslims. It's the basic things that we need to know. If we don't know this, but are we going to go outside the fold of Islam? So, we run out of time. Same time, same place, next week. And next week, Abu Jannah. Promise you, you'll discuss about Al-Maut. But I took up all of his time, and I wasn't meant to do that. That's Ken. Sony Singh calling me. Kuli hada wa astaghfirullah wa sallallahu sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.